To the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham, and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show, as you can see from the sign there. It's 7:01. Can't believe we're slightly late. Very much apologies for that. The international clock said it was 7 o'clock, so that's probably why I made the mistake. Russell Quirk is here. Very good morning to you, Russ.
Morning.
It's still D-Day or S-Day or whatever we want to call it for STARMER. Unbelievably, right? There's still no leadership contest, apparently.
It's not official.
Not official. So there isn't one that they're all fighting over, so even though they're all fighting over it.
We're now in another political vacuum, aren't we?
I said this to somebody this morning, that it feels like the Three Stooges now. They're sort of running around, bumping into each other. You know, you go run around the corner. Oh, there's West Streeting. What are you doing? Oh, I want to get it back into the European Union. Do you?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, then. Well, we'll see about that. STARMER says that, he's going to support Andy Burnham if he decides to run for leadership.
The guy he blocked.
Yeah, the guy he blocked from running for the leadership before. He now wants him to run for the leadership. We find out, I think, this week whether or not he's going to run as the candidate. He gets selected as the candidate in this Makerfield place, which everybody says shouldn't be called Makerfield. It should be called Ashton in Makerfield.
Yes.
All the locals. So they're even getting the name wrong.
So they don't even know where it is.
They don't even know where it is, no.
Yeah.
And what's his face? Burnham keeps going out running. He went out running yesterday, slightly different outfit.
Did he get Did he get the same car at the end and drive home?
Yeah, apparently he does that all the time.
Does he?
Yeah, he put out a statement saying, actually, I quite often run to where my car is left.
Yeah.
Really?
What is it about Labour politicians and cars? So you've got one that pretends to go jogging. He runs for about 100 metres and gets in his car and drives off. Then you've got Sadiq Khan, of course, that goes for a walk with his dogs into bulletproof Range Rovers.
Bulletproof Range Rovers, miles away from where he lives. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think it's performative?
I think it might well be. And also, a lot of people noticed that when he came running out of his gated house, it looks like quite a nice house that Andy Burnham lives in, which is, as you might expect, the Mayor of Manchester to live in a nice house.
Yeah.
But this working man's kind of hero type image that he keeps putting out is absolutely nuts and cobblers, right?
Yeah.
The Mail this morning has got Slippery Burnham's 2 U-turns in one day.
Already?
He changed his mind on Britain rejoining the EU to stand in pro-Brexit area. Now he says he'll stick with Reeves's rules, the fiscal rules, which he said he might not stick with. And he's also now said that he wouldn't completely and utterly do away with all of the utilities and nationalise everything because it would cost too much money.
Yeah.
So he's already said two things and gone back on them.
Well, and also he said, I think at the weekend, he said a number of things that, just like STARMER, he's going to U-turn on, but these are really quite impressive U-turns given that they're happening within 24 hours or something he said, and he's not even the official candidate yet.
Right.
But he also mentioned housing, which obviously is a hot button subject in the UK, and how he wants to build more council houses than since the aftermath of the Second World War. So I've crunched the numbers on that, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, he wants to build about 200,000 council houses a year, which will cost £50 billion.
Right.
I just, dare I venture, where the money might
Well,
come
I also
from.
seem to remember when we had the last, wish of building houses from Labour, it was said by the entire building industry that actually, one, we don't have the people to build them.
Yep.
Two, we don't have the resources.
Materials.
We don't have the materials. We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the plots. We don't know how you're going to do this.
Yeah, but there's also, I think, if you dig into this, he has said very, very clearly in the past, Andy Burnham, that he wants to see us not just have closer ties to the EU, but actually to rejoin the EU. As you said, he's now running back on that because it turns out that Makerfield voted 65% leave.
Right.
Oops.
Yeah.
So probably not a good look to be pro-EU if you're going to fight there. But
you know what's also interesting is that people are saying in London, West Streeting came out and said all that because basically the bulk of, I think 50% of the Labour Party membership is in London, right? Which makes a lot of sense as to why they've lost the entire Red Wall. All of whom are pretty much Remainers. And also he says most of the Labour MPs actually want to rejoin the EU. So it shows you that they are existentially now out of touch with the country.
No, but I think West Street has been really clever, right? Because he knows that if he goes for the leadership on a pro-EU ticket, he might get the leadership.
He will.
But first of all, Burnham's got to get elected in Makerfield. And if Burnham wants to get elected as leader, he has to be pro-EU, but he can't be pro-EU to get elected in Makerfield because they're a Leave constituency.
Well, there are some
clever
who say,
Streeting.
and I was saying this yesterday on the show, there are some who say that, the dark arts, the Dark Lord is in the background going to West Streeting because who's his creature, right? If you say this, that will completely kibosh Burnham in Makerfield. And I think that's what's going on.
Even though the papers, of course, are saying that Burnham is way ahead in terms of if there was a poll tomorrow,
well, that's
Burnham
what the
would win
Times are saying.
versus STARMER and indeed, I presume, versus Streeting.
Yeah, he would, So Andy Burnham would decisively beat Keir Starmer in a head-to-head leadership contest, according to a poll of Labour members, right? But the trouble is, what they don't get is that everybody's sick of them, right? Nobody cares whether it's Rayner, whether it's Streeting, whether it's Burnham, whether it's Starmer. People just want to get rid of them.
But don't we realise, right, we've had the last 2 years, arguably more than that under the Tories previously, of politicians not doing what they say they're going to do, politicians that have a belief but then go back on it publicly because they think it might be uncomfortable. You've got this here. So we've already got the Burnham U-turn thing, which is the same as STARMER. So Burnham is just really STARMER 2.0 from what I can see. He's going to not be authentic. He's going to be the very opposite of being a conviction politician. Actually, when you also look at whenever Burnham looks like he's going to be successful in his bid to be both the MP for Makerfield and therefore also the leader of the Labour Party and therefore the Prime Minister. Have you seen what the bond markets do? I mean, the bond markets are, by the way, forget the whole Liz Truss thing from 2022. The bond market's gilt yields, therefore the cost of money to people, long-term mortgages and so on, has spiked way more than the Liz Truss regime, but goes even higher when the markets, one day after another, believe that Burnham's going to be our Prime Minister. Why? Because he's going to spend, and the only way he can spend is by borrowing even more money than Rees has.
And what he said in the past was he doesn't want to be in hock to the bond markets, to which everybody said, well, what do you mean by that? And then by the time he's kind of unravelled it and tried to explain it, it's very clear that he doesn't have any understanding of economics. And I put out a tweet at the weekend which said, he's basically, his pitch for being Prime Minister of this great country of ours is that he managed to cap the bus fares in Manchester, and he thinks that that's somehow a model for water, electricity, energy, and all these other massive industries that he would like to see capped.
Unfortunately, some of us are old enough to remember the days of nationalisation. British Rail and its curled up kind of stale crusty sandwiches and nothing ever running on time.
And strikes.
Nationalisation, things being run by civil servants in that kind of wider sector, tend not to work. Look, Burnham, let's be under no illusion. I mean, he's probably more left than STARMER, perhaps as left as Angela Rayner.
Totally.
The stuff that he wants to do around nationalisation and so on, and spend. I mean, do we really think that Burnham is going to seek to cut the welfare bill? This £200 billion a year that we now spend. The fact that we've got some people in Britain that are on the equivalent of 80 grand a year on benefits. Do we really think Burnham's going to stand up to the rank and file and say we're not doing this?
No, because the Labour mantra is that all of those people deserve to be helped because they're vulnerable, right? But the trouble is they've completely reversed the vulnerability scale now, because now the people who are actually vulnerable are the people who are working and paying tax. Because if you're on benefits, you're not vulnerable anymore. You're living high on the hog.
Well, you are. There's another scary thing here in relation to what I said about housing. Conflate Burnham's position on re-entering the EU, which then means effectively we open our borders to the EU, and therefore all of the migrants that are in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Greece, and so on. It becomes an absolute open door. I mean, you think it's bad enough now, it becomes an absolute open door. Why do you think Burnham wants to build 200,000 council houses? We don't need 200,000 council houses a year. We don't. Our population isn't growing, apart from through immigration. So we need to conflate the two here. What Burnham's about is opening the floodgates via the EU, and therefore having to build 200,000 council houses a year at the cost of 50 billion to house the migrants.
So how's exactly people who can't afford to buy their own houses, so you just give them one? Right,
whoever you are.
Can I not get a free house?
Well, I mean, I think.
Can I just apply for a free house?
No, I think you'd have to come over as a migrant first.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
Doesn't work. There's a lot of good stuff going on today. There's some great stuff about HS2, which we'll get into in a minute. But first of all, let me show you this, because this is, of course, one of the great Andy Burnhamisms, is that, he's of the working people. And this is a man who knows what it's like to grow up in the North, and he's king of the North, and he's absolutely in touch. I mean, he might as well come out next time he comes out of the house with a whippet and a cloth cap.
And a crown.
and have some coal on his face or something, They go, up, but instead, of course, he's the product of a pretty decent education, a Cambridge graduate, I think he is, and a whole load of think tanks that
I think someone needs to do a Monty Python meme of Andy Burnham. The old, I used to get up half an hour before I went to bed. Used to lick the road and live in a shoebox by the side of the road.
Yeah, and also, remember Jaws, when they go out on the boat, and Richard Dreyfuss is the kid from the Oceanographic Institute, and old what's his face grabs him, Captain Shaw, whatever his name is, Robert Shaw, and he looks at his hands and he goes, "You've never done a hard day's work in your life." That's what he'd do with Burnham, because he'd see his hands, the middle class hands. But have a look at this. This is actually the BBC stitching him up, saying he's not a man of the people.
In the Hillsborough campaign, and that changed my views on politics, because I was part of a government that basically hadn't been listening to its own grassroots, an entire Labour city crying injustice, and hadn't been listening, and those experiences changing. It really has change my view of modern politics. I'm very disillusioned with it. I think it is.
You're
out of
disillusioned
touch.
with it?
Yeah, because it's out of touch. I said it deals in sound bites, it deals in spin. And when I try to make major...
You're it. You are modern politics. What? You went to Cambridge University, you worked in a couple of think tanks, you became a special advisor,
But
an
unlike-
MP, and now you want to be PM. I mean, what more inside the Beltway, Westminster insider politician could there be?
Well...
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good point.
Well, no, from Evan there, yes, but how dare Burnham sit there? I mean, it's the ultimate gaslighting, isn't it? Saying politics is broken, it has been for 30 or 40 years, but forget the 5 years I was in the cabinet or as a minister. He was a minister, then he was in the cabinet.
Well, also,
it's nothing to do with me, Gov.
He was a Blairite, he was a Corbynite, he was a STARMERite.
Yep.
This guy has
Mayor of
absolutely...
Manchester for how long?
Yeah, I don't know, 3 years.
Years. And also, and I'll tread carefully here, but some would say critical of him in terms of his stance or his protection of those that have been subject to the grooming gang rapes.
Well, Maggie
Oliver
was on the show yesterday, basically saying that he had a great opportunity to do plenty to help the young women and girls who were terribly badly assaulted, treated, raped, and in some cases murdered. He didn't do it.
No, he didn't.
He didn't do anything. So he's not to be trusted.
Another member of the Labour Party in authority, whether it's in councils, mayoralties, or in whatever position over the last few years, has turned a blind eye.
Right. The other thing, of course, that he's famous for in Manchester is setting up a ULEZ zone, which costs £200 million to the taxpayer, right? And then, because of so much opposition to it from the local people, having to do away with it. So apparently, I haven't been to Manchester for quite a long time, and I haven't noticed whenever I have been there. But apparently, there are cameras everywhere, which have got signs on them saying "under review," right? Because they built all this infrastructure, but they wanted to charge taxi drivers £7.50 a day. Buses and lorries, £15 a day, and there was so much opposition to it. People just said, "We're not doing it."
So straight out the Sadiq Khan playbook.
So straight out the Sadiq Khan playbook. But worse than that, he just spent a load of money and it went nowhere. 200 million quid down the Swanee.
But do these people not realise? It's not just the money that's being wasted. Even if, and I've had this in Brentwood where I'm a councillor, this net zero crusade.
Yeah.
If Manchester became net zero, if Brentwood became net zero, if Britain became net zero, bearing in mind we contribute just 1% of carbon to the world's atmosphere. If we became net zero as a nation, what difference would it make to the Earth's temperature?
Yes.
I mean, nothing. I mean, it's just
I've been asking
none.
this question for many, many years.
It's pathetic.
And I used to ask it whenever I'd get
spent?
people on talk, politicians. I'd say, when we get to net zero, right, which is what you want to do, what happens then?
Yeah.
How does my life change?
Yeah, how's it better?
Do I get cheaper electricity? Does my car run better? And nobody knows the answer.
No. Does my house or flat?
Because you know what? It doesn't mean anything. Net zero means bugger all.
Well, not only does it not mean anything, given that the carbon that is the focus of net zero is, I think it's something like 0.004% of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid, I mean, the atmosphere apparently is worldwide. It's not just a bit above us that stays there. So Brentwood or Manchester's net zero, great, and you've got that benefit. I mean, the atmosphere is a worldwide thing, right? So at the same time as this whole net zero nonsense, this quest, this crusade, you've got China, India and the United States who are chugging out more and more carbon on a daily basis because they're super industrialised.
Of course they are.
So what's the point of us
There isn't any
mitigating
point.
when the rest of them are just literally doing that? They're sticking two
There's
fingers
no point.
up.
Do you know what I liken it to, right? You're in a house, right, and you've got 50 cans of beans, okay? You take 25 of them and chuck them out the window, you've got net zero beans.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Yes.
Effectively, that's what they do.
No, but it's a crusade for ideological purposes. It's performative sixth form politics is what it is.
It is.
Without anyone actually wanting to know the outcome. I mean, and when it comes to the numbers, someone was talking to me the other day, I think it was either East Anglia University or the University of Essex that have been proven to have gamed all the data.
Oh, that was East Anglia,
East Anglia,
the
they
famous
gamed all
hockey
the
stick
numbers.
graph.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just made it up.
Which they manipulated.
They made it up.
Yeah.
Manipulated is too
be
nice a
kind.
word. They made it up.
Yeah.
Even more news on the GB Energy front this morning on net zero.
The GB Energy business.
GB Energy, our mate Jürgen, who sits in that Porter cabin up near Aberdeen, but he doesn't go there very often.
But this is an energy business that isn't an energy business.
It's not an energy business, no. Nobody knows what it does. They don't employ anybody. They've got a load of people working as directors and executives, but they don't actually do anything, right? Well, apparently, you know how old Miliband said, when you're buying all these solar panels in from China, we've got an absolute, insistence that they must not be produced by slaves. Well, they've gone back a bit on that now. They're going, well, it's okay.
Some of them.
It's all right if some slaves are used.
Oh, some slaves, yeah.
So they basically watered down the non-slave line in it, right?
Yeah.
So they said they wouldn't fund firms using forced labour, such as the ones used in China. But last night, Ed Miliband's department rode back, introducing a new caveat to say that it would only ensure panels were free from forced labour as far as possible.
As far as possible, which means nothing.
No.
Are these the panels that also are made of plastic, which comes from oil?
Yes.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so
that's
that we're
absolutely
clear
right.
how this works.
The Uyghur Muslims will be making most of these panels shortly before they get murdered by the Chinese authorities. So if you're putting any panels up, you might want to stop the virtue signalling because they'll be dripping with the blood of Uyghur slaves. How about that? Hey?
Wow. I mean, but true.
But it's true. Yeah. You imagine if you had... It'd be great if you could do that. We'd have the AI somehow. You could, like people who have got solar panels, just make them drip with blood.
Yes.
So that every time they come home at night, they get covered in blood.
Yeah.
Because that's the people you're exploiting.
You can see how they've been made, but don't tell Zach Polanski, because I'm not sure how he'd be defend his position.
He wouldn't be able to do that. Now, I'm sorry to do this to you and to everybody else. In fact, you know what? Somebody said this yesterday. Charlotte's here again, by the way. Well done, Charlotte. Everything's going very well. We got the STARMER alert. Have you got the STARMER alert?
Have I got a STARMER?
Have you got a STARMER alert? Because somebody said to me yesterday, what we should now have is a Burnham alert as well.
Yeah.
And maybe we should have like some whippets and a couple of coal miners and whatever it is that we can put together. I meant to mention to you yesterday.
Him and his jogging outfit.
But if you haven't, have you got the STARMER alert? Play this STARMER clip from yesterday, which is so funny. Because it's as though nothing's changed, right? And he spent the whole weekend in Chequers talking to nobody because nobody wants to go and see him anymore.
Rattling around on his own.
He's literally got the black spot. Nobody wants to go anywhere near him. So have a look at this.
Is your premiership now over?
No, we've got a lot of work to do, and I was addressing Labour Party staff actually this morning, reminding them and reminding the whole team really that we were elected into office by millions of people to bring about change in this country.
8 days ago you said you will fight the next election and serve a full second term. Is that still the case?
I do want to fight the next election. I've said I don't know how many times that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office.
Have you noticed he's now tried to be nice? He's now tried to smile. When he was in Parliament the other week, last Monday, Pooch was quite taken with him. Pooch was actually, I thought, I'd have...
Softening.
It's one of the reasons we had to send Pooch on holiday.
You're going to say?
He'd obviously gone mad. Yeah, because he started going, well, if he'd been like that from the beginning, we would have liked him. I'm like, all right, steady. Then he started saying he'd started fancying Rachel Reeves.
Well, Pooch is this.
That's why he's been...
Is he only going away for a week? Maybe he needs longer.
He's in rehab. It's as simple as that.
Labour rehab.
He's been reassigned to a re-education camp. Because I was like, this is a Mike Graham show. You're not working with the BBC, mate. You know. Anyway, so it turns out that Starmer's obviously been told, here's how you kind of, sail through the troubled, choppy waters, right? You start smiling a lot more, so he's doing all that, even though he's actually completely and utterly...
It's all very Stepford,
yeah, he's empty inside, he's like a husk. He's just sitting there going, nobody likes me, they've all stabbed me in the back. But if I smile, and did you notice he said, I'd like to run for the election for the, for the next Parliament, rather than I will run for the election for the next Parliament.
Maybe
he knows he's done.
They've forced some media training on him over the weekend. That's what was happening in Chequers, maybe.
Yeah.
They had a load of kind of ex-journalists in there saying, look, can we try and...
Well, maybe they had somebody in there with a rubber hose beating him and put the glove on. Mandelson knows some people.
Yeah, it'd be like a spitting image sketch with Mandelson dressed up with his kind of black leather gloves and a trunk.
Coming in as Darth Vader, the Dark Lord. It'd be great, wouldn't it? I mean, that's what you want, isn't it? So, I mean, I would watch that. I would pay to see that.
And we're streeting Skywalker, presumably, is he?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
And who's Jabba the Hutt?
Jabba the Hutt must be Lammy, mustn't it?
I'm glad you said that.
It's got to be Lammy. In fact, we got a Lammy clip because here's Lammy on Nick Ferrari's show yesterday, being completely and utterly untruthful about the weekend and the Unite the Kingdom march. Check this out.
You put out a social media post, Deputy Prime Minister, on Saturday. The Unite the Kingdom march organisers are spreading hatred and division. How do you know? Did you attend it?
Well, actually, you'll understand that I and my family are in central London. We're very aware of the protests. there were 43 arrests made, 11 of them for hate speech. And my job, working with the Home Secretary, was to ensure that people could not fly into our country from abroad to stir up hate and division on our streets.
Yeah.
So we barred them from the ability to do that. And the police did a huge operation in London, lots of resources, all of it at public expense. People have the right to protest, but they must protest peacefully.
Just to clarify, the 43 arrests were all linked to the Unite the Kingdom demonstration, were they?
That was over the course of the weekend. I know that there was another protest, of course, the Nakba protest that was going on as well. I haven't seen the full breakdown of arrests relating to which.
How can you know the Unite the Kingdom march organisers are spreading hatred and division if you didn't attend?
Well, look, this was not the first of those marches. Some of those that were asked to come and attend.
No, I appreciate that, sir, but you were referring to the ones on Saturday. You didn't know. This is a wild
come on, Nick.
assumption, isn't it?
Nick, you and I have known each other for years.
Too long, some would say.
Let's be clear. We know what Tommy Robinson's about.
At last we found common ground.
I don't think that's
After
about
all these
debate
years.
and discussion on LBC. All your listeners know what Tommy Robinson's about. I don't think anything I said was particularly controversial.
So this is exactly what Starmer did in the summer of 2024, isn't it? Just to try and immediately slur and characterise people that were on the streets protesting about Broken Britain without being there, without knowing, as far-right hate speech. There was as much hate speech, I'm sure, if not more, from the anti-Semites that were at the pro-Palestine
The thing that I object
rally.
the most about that particular piece by Lammy is that he's the Minister for Justice, right? He must know what the breakdown is of the arrests. And he's claiming that 43 arrests happened, I think they all happened at the United Kingdom March. No, they didn't. Actually, the number at the United Kingdom March was fewer, and then most of the hate speech was actually at the other march.
Well, there were a number of those arrests that were also completely unrelated to the protests themselves.
There was exactly that. So for him to say quite categorically that there were 43 arrests at the United Kingdom March is not only incorrect, but it's disingenuous, and it's entirely hate-filled, because it's he that's got the hate for the people who are just walking around London.
Well, they themselves, whether it's Starmer or Lammy, they themselves are the ones that are now advancing a narrative around division.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. It's not anybody else.
No.
It's them.
No, exactly right. Incredible. Now, we've got a couple of other stories to talk about this morning as well. One particular one that you want to talk about the First Lady of Sierra Leone, which is brilliant. But first, we're going to have a poll today, and I'm going to first of all give you the headline, right? HS2 will now cost more than NASA's Artemis moon mission, right? So it's actually going to cost in excess of 100 billion pounds, right? They're going to be announcing later on today a new timetable for the programme.
It's going to cost more to get to Birmingham than to get to the moon.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, some people would say you'd rather go to the moon than go to Birmingham. You know, some parts of the moon are
a lovely place.
much nicer. Yeah. So a UK stripped-back high-speed link is set to be the most expensive rail line in the world, right? They haven't even got any track yet. Right? They haven't actually built any track. Further delays, higher costs expected when the new timetable is announced later on today. The new cost estimates for the beleaguered 140-mile rail line are likely to reach about £100 billion. And NASA's project for Artemis was only £79 billion. Isn't that amazing?
Well, it's unbelievable.
The Transport Secretary, who I think is Heidi Alexander now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is she the one that had her phone stolen?
No, that was
the previous Transport
That was the first Transport Secretary, Lou Haig.
That's it.
Who kept getting her phone nicked. Unlucky for her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for her, she also reported one of the phones being stolen on the stolen phone.
Yes, that wasn't.
Even the police figured that one out. You know, they're not that bright, but they can see. Cost-saving measures such as slower speeds, right? So it's not going to be high speed 2 anymore. And then the completion date will likely be pushed back to something like 235.
But we do realise there are already trains that go between London and Birmingham, right? And it's only about an hour. It's about 2 hours, I think, isn't it? If that.
I don't think it's even 2 hours.
No.
They're already pretty quick.
You could already commute from Birmingham to London every day if you were so minded.
Yeah, even when they were going to run fast, the HS2 trains weren't going to get you to London any quicker because they were going to bring you into Old Oak Common, which is West London, west of Hammersmith, effectively, a place called Wormwood Scrubs, where there's a prison, which is where they should put all the bleeding MPs that came up with this idea. And so you'd have to get off the train, get on and wait for another train, and 20 minutes into Euston.
Yeah.
And so by the time you'd saved the 20 minutes, you'd actually be spending even more time.
Yeah, but let's also apportion the blame correctly here. This was started by the Conservatives, of course. Another one of these policies that was messed up by the previous Conservative government, that has now, if you didn't think things could get any worse, been completely catastrophically further handled by the current Labour government. I mean, it's honestly...
It is.
It's almost like we're run by a completely incompetent political class.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is the trouble. This entire country has fallen into rack and ruin as a result of the people who have been in charge of it for the best part of the last 40 years. It's the one thing I agree with Andy Burnham about. Trouble is, he was one of them.
He's a career politician.
He's a career politician. He's never done anything else.
No, of course.
And he, as you pointed out, was in a cabinet for 5 years of the 40 years that he's saying was rubbish. Well done, Andy. Anyway, we've got a poll. So I don't know if we can flash it up, can we? Yeah, thank you very much indeed. What should we do with HS2? Scrap it all together now, turn it into a go-kart track, sell it to China, or make MPs pay for it? 64% of you think we should make MPs pay for it. I think that's a good shout. I think we could collect it. I mean, if you take, I don't know, you're a businessman. Can you, in your head, say, for example, take, what is it, 650 MPs, is it?
Yeah.
Into 100 billion?
100 billion. I mean,
how much would they have to pay each?
Quite a lot of money, but they just claim it back on expenses, mate.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't be allowed to. No, this is a great idea of mine. I'm warming to this.
Yeah, I might be a businessman. I'm also a car guy, right? So I think we should actually get MPs to pay for it and then turn it into an autobahn, so that actually there's a route between London and Birmingham that car people can use on a regular basis.
That'd be
with
great.
No speed limit.
No speed limit, just 2 tracks.
Yeah.
Right?
That'd be great.
That'd be absolutely, what a brilliant idea. We can make that into one of the, instead of selling it to China, no, we don't have to change it. Yeah, let's have a look. I'm going to try and do this live, right? So 100 billion, right? Hang on, let me get this right.
Zeros on your calculator.
That's 100 million.
While he's doing that, there is an aside here that actually this is the thing that China should be doing in Britain.
Divided by 650.
They should be building our infrastructure, because they would have HS2 done in about 4 days.
I don't think I've done this right. It works. No, that's definitely not right. Hang on. 100 billion, right? So that's 100...
100,000 million.
It's 100,000, is it 1,000 million?
I think it's 100,000 million.
So that's 100 million, right?
Yeah.
So I need another 3.
Yeah.
Like that. Divided by
650.
650. Comes out quite a lot. That can't be right.
It's 153 million quid.
Yeah. What, each?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to make that. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, we'll have to go up with another plan.
Yeah, crowdfund it.
Yeah, crowdfund it, yeah. Time for a forensic audit on HS2. I really do think that certain people who were involved in the setting up of HS2 and the original kind of buying of compulsory purchasing of houses in particular, which apparently now in the north there's a real problem because they bought a load of properties and they're now not going to build the railway line.
No, they're not. But actually,
so now they're going to have to sell them back.
But the flip side is, in that time, property values have gone up.
Yeah.
So by accident, this wasn't engineered, this wasn't a strategy. The stuff that they've built, and when you buy through compulsory purchase, it's roughly value plus 10%.
Yeah.
So actually, probably the taxpayers made money.
Yeah. Well, that's fine, but we won't see it.
John Bishop was one of the famous ones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He sold his house for lots of money, but arguably they're worth more now. The interesting thing would be, how much does it cost per mile?
Yeah.
Charlotte, do you want to work that out?
Well,
100 billion divided by 100 and whatever it is, 140 miles?
Oh, no, I mean, somebody will do, one of the papers, I think they've already done that. I mean, it's billions per mile. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about the minister, or the first lady, I should say, of Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
Who apparently has got one of the many lucky people who's got a council house.
Well, if you're one of 18,000 people, Mike, that is on the Southwark Council housing waiting list, so 18,000 people
I live
on
in
that
Southwark,
waiting list.
but I pay sort of what can maybe be described as commercial rent.
I don't see there's any justification for you being on the council waiting list in Southwark.
Really?
I don't think so.
No,
we
you don't think I'm vulnerable? I've been vulnerable.
Yeah, or the other way around. So they're vulnerable to you. This is Fatima Jabe Bayo, who fled Sierra Leone by way of asylum, ended up here, ended up with a council flat, obviously, and has now somehow managed to marry the current president of Sierra Leone. So she's gone back to Sierra Leone, therefore becomes the first lady.
Right.
And of course, because she's married to the president, she lives in the presidential palace.
Did she meet him in Southwark?
She did meet him in London.
Yeah, I bet.
Apparently, interviewing.
Right.
Apparently, so she.
One of my favourite stories about the sort of the African diaspora, if you like, is when we found out that in Lambeth Library it was being run by a Rwandan war criminal.
Of course. course.
Who'd been given sanctuary in Britain.
There was probably a library section
And
all
he was
about
wanted in The Hague for war crimes.
Yeah, genocide as a kind of library label.
Yeah,
in
and
the
do you fancy one of these Shakespeare books for the
But get
weekend?
this, so she's gone back to Sierra Leone. She obviously now lives in the presidential palace, which looks out over the hills of Sierra Leone's capital.
Very nice too.
That's that particular palace. Apparently, that mansion has got, of course, a swimming pool, tennis courts, and it's very, very palatial because it's a palace. But she's kept the council flat and insists, by way of comment to the Times, that she's got every right to keep it, even though she doesn't live there. Unfortunately, the regulations say that if you have a council house or a council flat, it must be your primary residence. Well, clearly it's not. So all eyes are on Southwark Council now, which I presume is Labour run for now. I would imagine that they're probably not going to do anything about this, despite the fact that there'll be 18,000 people banging on the door of Southwark Town Hall today saying, hang on a sec, I've been on the waiting list for 5 years. Can I please, or can you please do something about this? Because I think this might be stretching the rules a little bit.
I would have thought so. Surely they have the right to take somebody's council house away if it's discovered that, they should never have got it in the first place.
Yep. Or maybe she had a right to it by way of the rules, but she doesn't now. She doesn't.
But why
live
does she have a right to it?
But apparently she's paying the rent, which it would be all of 28 quid a week.
Yeah, right. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It says here, Sierra Leone is a country in West Africa on the Atlantic Ocean known for its white sand beaches lining the Freetown Peninsula. The capital city, Freetown, commemorates the nation's slave trade history with the Cotton Tree Landmark and King's Yard Gate. It doesn't say anything about any war going on or anything.
No,
it says
there was, but now it's all lovely.
It says it's a bit dangerous if you go there. Monitor the media for new and existing risks. Exercise a high degree of caution due to the threat of violent crime. Yeah. Well, you might as well say the same about London.
Yeah.
Did you see the pictures yesterday of the two guys having a machete fight?
I did.
Which is a park in South London.
But this is Sadiq Khan's Safe London.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just going to Google Sierra Leone Palace. Let's have a look, see what it looks like, because I imagine it will be quite nice.
I imagine it's probably lovely.
Might be a slight uplift on a council flat in Southwark, but she's keeping both. That's the point, which obviously is completely and utterly unjustifiable.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, I'll find that in a second.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'll send it to
we'll
Charlotte.
do some super chats in the meantime. Good morning, Mike, Charlotte and Russell. Wishing you all a great day, another great show. Good morning to all the viewers and listeners. Have a great day, everyone. Since Anthony, that's very kind. It's very nice to get these nice, pleasant, unpedantic messages. One here from Red Rock who says, I have an idea that will balance our country. Why don't we give money, homes and welfare to anyone not British? That will ease everything. Well, it seems Starmer thinks that works. How the fudge is he still hanging on? Yeah, I don't know. Well, he started smiling. I think that's the new kind of Starmer plan. Dapop says this morning, Mike. HS2 construction depots are holding English lessons to the new arrivals around the Birmingham area, or the Buckingham area. Sorry, thought only the best were coming. Yeah, well, who knows? Loyal says this morning, Mike and Russell. Did you see the disgusting treatment of the hijab-wearing police officer on duty at the Nakba march? Hatred and vitriol clear. Well, that was one of the hate speech arrests that was made, or several of them, because a lot of Muslim women apparently didn't like the fact that there was a Muslim woman in the police and started giving her the 7 bells of hell. And they've all now been charged with hate speech, which, of course, David Lammy doesn't mention.
Yeah. Whereas actually, surely integration is something that we should all welcome and embrace.
Well,
isn't it?
that's apparently what it's for, isn't it?
Yes.
Diversity is our strength.
It is, apparently.
Put a load more Muslims in the police.
If they keep telling us that, I think it will end up being true.
It could be. Absolutely right. Meanwhile, there's a picture. Is that the presidential palace?
Yeah, and that's not a block of flats. That is the palace.
It's not exactly Versailles, is it? I mean,
no, it's not.
I mean, they could do with finding an architect.
But it's massive.
Yeah, it's massive. A lot of concrete there.
And it's got a swimming pool and a tennis court.
Swimming pool, tennis court, very nice.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, what more could you want? A couple of stories to mention. Apparently, there was a London Arab gang who have been found to have beaten up an Israeli man.
Saw that yesterday. You see the state of his
overnight. Overnight in Golders Green. And it's now been pretty well documented that, and we're going to talk to Will Geddes about this, who's in the house. Morning, Will. About the IRGC, who it now would appear are in control of several gangs of people operating in London.
But still not worthy of being prescribed.
Oh, no.
Apparently.
No, not at all.
So they're not that bad according to our government.
Because it's a state-run organisation, apparently.
Yeah.
The other story we want to do is Crowborough, where they've now got vigilantes, which is, again, something I'll talk to Will about. But have a look at this video. Shall we have a look at that first?
Yeah. In this East Sussex town, a new group of volunteers has become a regular sight on the streets. Going out on patrol 3 times a day, 7 days a week, they call themselves Crowborough Aware.
We're a visible presence to provide the feel of safety, security, and to, stop any potential issues occurring. So we're a deterrent. There was one incident that I recall where a lady, she came running out the darkness, said she was being followed, and we walked her to her home.
The group of 81 volunteers was formed earlier this year following local concerns about behaviour linked to the nearby accommodation site for asylum seekers. Some critics have labelled the group vigilantes, a description they strongly reject.
A lot of our community are concerned for their safety. I understand that, and I hope this just alleviates some of their concern.
Shortly after GB News' visit to Crowborough, the group attended an incident involving migrants from the camp. Sussex Police later confirmed officers responded to a report of antisocial behaviour by an individual among a group of asylum seekers. The force made no arrests and the group returned to the camp shortly after.
A member of the public, he started to record. Migrant wasn't happy with this, so he started grabbing at his phone. Individual then grabbed the member of the public physically. 4 of the 6 migrants surrounded the member of the public, intimidating. He felt very threatened.
The Home Office said it was working closely and routinely with Sussex Police to ensure appropriate security arrangements are in place for the...
Yeah, the government keeps saying, but the number of people in asylum hotels is falling. Yeah, because you're giving them houses.
Yeah, but they're now dispersed around the community.
They're not leaving the country.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening more and more, and we'll see more and more of these vigilante groups. Probably not the right word, actually.
I wonder how they're being characterised by the so-called left. I mean, are these guys being labelled by the left now, presumably as far-right thugs, fascists and so on? It's sadly necessary, isn't it, that if you live in a community where you're worried about the protection of the community, particularly, women and children, that this sort of thing has to happen. Where I live, actually, in Hutton in Brentwood, 2 years ago, we had to start paying for private security because every 3 or 4 days there was being a car nicked, an attempted break-in. The police were not interested, not visible. I wrote to the Conservative Police and Fire Commissioner Roger Hurst and got a load of word salad back that said, no, everything's fine. And I said, well, I live here and I watch this stuff every day. It's not fine. So we now have a private security company, MLB, I'll give them a little plug, who are very, very good indeed and have almost, touch wood, eradicated that car crime and burglary crime from the place where I live. But we're still paying for the police. And that precept to the police, particularly in Essex, goes up by more than the rate of inflation, pretty much, every single year. Where are the police? What they're doing? And I don't blame the rank and file police. I think I feel very sorry for them, actually. It's the hierarchy, it's the bosses that have got them probably filling in paperwork more than they're out on the street, or they're dealing with mental health stuff, or they're in A&E most of the time. Yeah, indeed, or arresting people for saying nasty things.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether it's changed since the latest incarnation of, we're not doing, non-crime hate incidents anymore. But Essex, because of what happened in Epping and in the hotels there, and the Bell Hotel, I remember going out there when I saw you out there in Chelmsford, and it was something like 1.5 people a day are arrested in Essex.
No, 600 is slightly more, about 600 non-crime hate incidents. Don't forget Alison Pearson, our friend.
Yeah, of course.
As a journalist for The Telegraph, being intimidated by Essex police because of something she said, which was a matter of her right to free expression.
Yeah, like about a year later.
And then the police went on to, I think it was a station called LB something, the Labour Broadcasting Company, I think it was, the next day to defend exactly what they'd done. And actually Roger Hurst, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Essex, actually said Alison Pearson has committed a crime, which is why maybe there might be a legal action.
He's got that wrong.
Yeah, he has.
Unfortunately,
he's got a lot of things wrong.
One final thing for you, you'll like this is on front of the Telegraph. Apparently, this will come as no surprise to anybody sensible. Patients risk having serious conditions missed by doctors who are working from home under an NHS revolutionary change championed by Wes Streeting. So Wes Streeting came up with this idea that doctors can work from home. That way they can see more people, except they can't actually see them. They can just see them on video or talk to them on email.
And just listen to what they're saying. It's about as practical as bricklayers working from home, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you're a doctor, you should see people face to face. It doesn't seem to be rocket science, actually, really, does it? I mean, maybe that's why HS2's taking so long. But they're all working from home. But also, do you mind coming and building a railway? No, do it from home.
No. Well, they're doing it with little Hornby things in their lounge.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
AI HS2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But it's like the DSS, isn't it? Or whatever they're called these days. They're assessing all of these people that apparently are disabled or have got mental health issues and ADHD and so on. remotely. You know, they're not actually seeing them and testing them. It's just a Zoom call for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, do you feel like you've got a mental illness?
Yeah.
Okay, here's a blue badge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've got anxiety.
Blue badge.
You know, thanks very much indeed.
Blue badge.
Unbelievable. This country's done for. Russell, I'll meet you back at the FS Bar poolside. What's that?
Oh, that was Dubai. I was on your show from Dubai a few weeks ago, and that gentleman there, lovely, lovely guy.
Paul.
I walked up with my wife to the bar.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, we're a few hours ahead,
Yes.
so you know I wasn't drinking it. I wasn't drinking
we
at
start
breakfast
drinking
time.
at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, this was a little bit later than that. And he said to me, "I've been watching the Mike Graham show from here in Dubai, and you were on it." And I went, "Wow, yes."
Brilliant.
International audience.
Well done.
Hello, mate.
Excellent stuff. Rod says, just for your records, the police officer being abused incident was from a few weeks ago, not the weekend. That's not true, actually, Rod.
And I'm not sure the timeline matters, does it?
No, it's
abuse.
No, it was actually on Saturday. I can tell you that because the police issued a statement about it. Who will be able to afford to use HS2, says GZ. It'll probably just be migrants, won't it?
Yeah.
You know, you fancy a trip down to London? Here's a free ticket.
Yeah.
You know,
you can drive the train if you want.
Yeah, drive
well, there
the
won't be
train
any train drivers. They'll all be on strike.
They'll be on strike. Yeah. Why don't you fancy going to a free football match? You know, we'd head you down into London.
The trampoline lessons that are famous.
Yeah, anything you like. You know, maybe
swimming lessons. The swimming lessons for migrants always makes me laugh. They come over on a boat across the channel, and they get here and they get given swimming lessons.
Well, better than
That's
that
funny.
though is the ones who get here and say that they can't be sent back because they're frightened of water.
Yes.
And you go, well, how'd you get here then?
Yeah.
Also on the migrant front, the other one to mention is on page 21 of the Sun. And this is also in Crowborough, right? A couple, grandparents, Philip and Christine Straker, they wanted to demolish an old stable and wood store on their land and build a 4-bed eco home. But the local council gave them no planning permission on the grounds that they said that it would overcrowd the countryside. And as they come out of their house and look to the left, that's where the migrant camp is.
Which is overcrowded with migrants.
In the countryside.
Yeah.
But
that's okay, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently, planning chief said that their plan would erode the natural beauty of the area and harm its character. There's 500 migrants over there. What are they doing?
You literally can't make this stuff up.
You literally cannot make it up. It's hilarious.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, Russell, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Hey? Mike, when you go on holiday, who's doing your job? Well, I can't say, but it might well be the man sitting to my left, Russell Quirk. I'm not sure if you've accepted the challenge yet, have you?
Yeah, I have.
Have you?
Yeah, of course. I jumped at it.
Yeah, all right. We've got to put a few things in place before we do that. And also, we've got to finish Pooch's re-education so you can come back and do the right thing.
Yeah, I don't want to be corrupted by Pooch.
You really don't.
No,
you
I don't want to
careful.
leave here on the 12th of June or wherever it might be.
I'm assuming when he comes back, he'll hate Starmer again and he won't fancy Rachel Reeves. You know, that would be good.
I worry about him a lot. I worry.
Best show for ages, Mike et al. Debs, what do you mean this one? I really don't want to go to work.
Well, don't then.
Just work from home. That's what everybody else does.
Take your phone with you and put it on YouTube on your phone with
there
your
you
earphones
go.
in.
There you go. Piece of advice there. Coming up, Mr. Will Geddes is going to be joining us, an international man of mystery. We've got lots to talk to him about. Plus, of course, we've got AY audits coming on later on today, which I know a lot of you will be looking forward to. Nigel Pawley as well. Christian Drogan, the man from Watchmen. We're not sure what he's been up to. Linda Doobeley's here as well. Let's get some news, first of all, though, with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Surprise, surprise. Labour's in yet another leadership meltdown. Keith Starlin is clinging on to number 10 like a limpet after getting absolutely slammed in the local elections. He insists he's focused on the job. Translation, please don't make me set a resignation date. Ministers have already jumped ship or politely suggested he packs his bags. Meanwhile, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been cleared to run in the Makerfield by-election. He's promising to change Labour because, in his words, the current offer is not good enough. A revelation that's only slightly more obvious than rain being wet. In other news, fresh allegations that 2 women were raped by their on-screen husbands on Married at First Sight UK, with Channel 4 apparently knowing about one claim in advance. Shocking. Another perfectly normal Tuesday in Clown World. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed, Edward. Good to see that you've dropped the moniker Mick, which I don't like. The Quirky Quirk Show, says Lord Viking. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. We'll come back to you with more information on that because it's the planning stage is kind of where we are at the moment. Lots of other stories to talk about this morning. Will Geddes is here. Will, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too,
going to talk to you about this vigilante thing in Crowborough, but also how that's probably happening in quite a lot of different communities now.
Yeah.
Let's get a quick poll update, though, because we're also talking about HS2 and how hopelessly expensive it has become. Apparently today we're going to get an update on costs and a timetable, which are going to be likely in excess of 100 billion quid. So here's our question for you today on the poll. What should we do with HS2? Scrap it all together now, 28%. Turn it into a go-kart track. Russell had a good idea, turn it into just a proper motorway for people with fast cars and no speed limit. 5% there. Sell it to China, 3%. Make MPs pay for it, 64%. We tried to work that out and it looked like they'd all have to pay about 150 million quid each. So I'm not sure that's going to work. But I could have got that wrong. So if anybody else wants to try and work out the equation, or maybe we get the civil servants to pay for it because there's more of them. There's thousands of them. Maybe we get all of them to pay for it. Everyone in the Department for Transport. And we could maybe catch up with what should happen. Here we are. Will Geddes, very good morning to you, as I say.
Busy.
Lots to talk about. I mean, the state of this nation now is laughable, isn't it? I mean, we've got a government in power, but not really in situ. I mean, nobody really knows who's running the country.
No.
We've got a sort of a leadership race that is
disastrous.
Well, because they keep saying there isn't one.
Yeah.
We haven't actually got a leadership race, but there's 3 people who want to run for leadership. One of them already is the leader, but he doesn't have any kind of mandate to do anything.
Yeah.
He started smiling, Starmer, as if that man's going to make any difference. Slippery Burnham's being described on the front of the Daily Mail as having made 2 U-turns in 1 day.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a shambles.
And how many of them can we trust, Mike?
Well,
I mean,
they're
going to tell us what we want to hear, and I don't think we can trust a single one of them.
They're not even that good. They don't tell us what we want to hear. I mean, Burnham says he wants to get back in the EU. No, we don't. Nobody wants that. Where's Streeting? Let's get back in the EU. No, we don't want to do that.
I know. And then the rest of them are being sort of investigated for fraud or tax evasion or stamp duty evasion or whatever. So, I mean, it is a right mess. I think we should call a general election. I think it's the only option. Well, it is the only option.
The Sun called for that yesterday. I've been calling for it. I've been saying it's going to happen for a long time. I've finally been proved right about Starmer because people said to me back in the summer of 2024, do you remember when I said, look, this guy's not going to last the pace? And everyone was going, all these, political experts were going, oh, no, Labour doesn't do that. They don't get rid of their leaders. It's not like the Tory party. It can't be done. There's no mechanism to do it. Well, guess what? Here's where we are.
Yeah.
He's going.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, it is a rudderless ship, the UK right now. And I think also...
And it's holed below the waterline. It's sinking fast.
They're bailing as much as they can, and it's not working. It is actually sinking like one of the many dinghies that cross the channel every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ridiculous. There is so many really key, easy, low-hanging fruit policies that these guys could introduce that could rescue them, could rescue their reputation. What seems so bizarre to me, Mike, is they just continue. It's like the blind following the blind.
Yeah.
And they're just not listening. They've become completely deaf to the general public. If they brought out an initiative to actually positively tackle illegal immigration, if they brought in a policy to support homeless veterans, if they brought in some sort of policy that's going to benefit the country in any shape or form, then I think the general public might say, okay, all right, we can all make mistakes. Maybe not as many as them.
Nobody can make this many mistakes.
I know.
I mean, if you made this many mistakes in your job, if I made this many mistakes in my job, well, you would be dead probably because of the dangerous nature of what you do. I would certainly be out of a job because people would go, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. They just wouldn't bother watching it. And you just think, in politics, it's so ludicrous. Let's have a look, actually, at Jess Phillips, right? One of my least favourite politicians. I think probably one of most people's least favourite politicians. She was on that dreadful show News Agents the other day, talking about how when you're in government, you don't get to do what you want. Have a look.
When you're a government minister, the amount of compromise you have to make all the time is huge. So I was absolutely I was pushing forward with that. It was meant to be announced in March on International Women's Day. That has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And whether that's Keir Starmer or just, generally a slowness of government is another thing. But the thing that I think jarred me so much in the last week and why I felt like actually you've got to be bold to push the thing that you really, really want. Also, when you've threatened to resign as many times as I have to try and get something that you want, you do have to sometimes go through with the threat for people to believe that it's real. Was listening to a speech where I was told that we would not only be interested in incremental change, and it just didn't ring true to me. And I had a sort of moment of realization where I had been made to feel grateful for crumbs.
And it wasn't part of anything factional? It wasn't part of a coordinated with West Streeting? You hadn't discussed it with West Streeting?
I mean, absolutely not. It's not that it wasn't part of something coordinated. It was part of me. It was actually one of my colleagues, who I love and respect, who had come out and said what she thought. And I thought it was incredibly brave. And she said, well, what are you going to do? And I just sat back and thought, like, you know, sometimes you have to be brave. But I didn't do this to... I have been told over the last year or so that, like, you know, I've been convinced to stay in the tent. But when there is a big emotional moment, like there was at the local elections, and you just want to hear that someone gets it, and what you hear is a promise of not having incremental change when your experience has been exactly that, it's just a perfect storm, I suppose. Like I say, at the Home Office, they had made me a mug that said I didn't quit my job today because I would, like, be in a rage quite regularly.
I mean, it's pathetic, isn't it? You look at that and you go, these are the people running the country. Is it any wonder we're so far down the drain?
I know.
I mean, people said at the time, we thought Jess Phillips had quit to running the 340 at Haydock. But that would be unkind, obviously.
What, eating an apple through a fence?
I wouldn't want to go there. But
I'm actually thankful Charlotte didn't give me an earpiece and there were subtitles.
Yes,
because
exactly.
I didn't really want to hear her voice first thing in the morning.
The voice is awful. But again, you know, the paucity of talent and the individual kind of lack of ability is what strikes me with this particular government to be the worst I've ever seen.
You see that
none of them have got any brains.
They don't have any brains, but it's beyond that, Mike. I think it's actually into deception and it's into delusion. And these people, they don't understand that they are proving and showing and demonstrating zero integrity.
Yeah.
And what you need from a politician, I think it's rare that it's ever provided, is any sense of integrity that they actually stand by what they say rather than just literally word soup, whatever they think the general public needs to hear right now.
And then they try to make out that they did something because it was, you know, very much driven by their own conscience. And it hardly ever has been. In my experience of this particular government, all of the people that have had to resign from their roles have had to do so because of something they've done wrong. You know, Tulip Siddiq, Bangladeshi, you know, corruption minister, gets done for corruption in Bangladesh, sentenced to 3 years in prison. You know, she has to go. Lou Haig, the woman who kept reporting her phone being stolen, and it turned out it hadn't been stolen, it was fraud. She had to got rid of. Morgan McSweeney, the guy who ended up bringing Peter Mandelson back in. Peter Mandelson, the man who ended up sending stuff to a convicted paedophile, and also all sorts of other misdemeanors. You know, the list just goes on and on and on. There is nobody anymore in certainly this Labour Party government politics with any kind of conscience at all.
None. And I'd actually like to see the black and white on it, Mike, and I'm going to do a bit of research, and maybe actually the listeners and the viewers can do that this morning. And that is to just do a quick ChatGPT or Claude on this and see how many ministers were actually sacked during the last government's tenure and how many MPs have been sacked or staff members have been sacked during this tenure within the 18 months, almost 2 years.
I think there's no question that Labour would win that because
I
there were
think
a lot of resignations in the various different Tory incarnations because so many of them resigned when Boris was leader. So many resigned when Rishi was leader, but I'm not sure they actually fired that many of them. But this lot have been an unmitigated disaster in all sorts of ways. They just haven't been able to kind of grasp what leading the country is about, it seems to me.
But they're kamikaze, Mike. That's the problem is it's not like the plane is in a tailspin and heading and hurtling towards the earth into a ball of flame. They're actually steering it into the earth. And this is what's so worrying, I think, for us as the general public. These morons are in control. These morons are deciding what's going on. We have no influence on it whatsoever. And the whole point is politicians are supposed to serve the people. They're supposed to serve the people who've elected them to come in. And we're in a situation where, you know, there's a good argument for giving the rules back to, or the control back to the king. Although sadly, I don't think we've got a king that could probably handle those controls.
But they're literally driving the bus off the cliff, aren't they?
Yeah, totally.
In the hopes that
give me evidence to the contrary.
That the water's going to be deep enough when you hit it that you won't actually die on impact.
Yeah,
that's kind of what they're doing. It's unbelievable.
I've had some clients like that where I've literally gone, you know what, you want to die? Yeah. Off you go.
But they're literally wrestling each other on the bus for control of who gets to drive it off the cliff.
But someone's already removed the wheel, Mike.
Yeah, the wheel's gone. The tyres are all flat, and you've got Burnham there going, I want to be in charge. Streety, I want to be in charge. Or let's take it over to Europe. No, nobody wants to do that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
madness.
In terms of just the general kind of crime in London, for example, we saw yesterday.
The Jewish lad.
There's an Israeli man who was attacked by this Arab gang, as it's being described.
Up in Golders Green, of all places.
There's more and more evidence, is there not, that some of these gangs are not random, that they are actually being funded in some way by the IRGC or by Hamas or some proxy of Iran, right? So how is that possible? How do these people all get into the country?
Firstly, they're coming in on boats, mate. If not, they're already here. The IRGC not being prescribed as a terrorist group is, as Russell was saying in the last hour, that's the thing that baffles me the most, because they're prescribed as a terrorist group everywhere else in the world. And why they're not in this country is really... I'm going to have a chat with some friends of mine in, north and south of the river to try and find out why. Because they are funding even the Mucky March on the weekend. They were... I like to call it the Mucky March.
Mucky March.
The Mucky March. They, a lot of individuals who were there would have been sponsored. They would have been paid for. There are agitators that would have been sponsored by the IRGC to start fights against the Unite the Kingdom, march. There are a number of different... there have been 30-odd plots here in the UK within the last year by the IRGC to kidnap dissenters to the Iranian regime, to carry out extortion, to rob, to kill, assassination plots. These guys are a proper terrorist group. People think of Al-Qaeda, Hamas, the Houthis as a terrorist group. The IRGC is a terrorist group, but with very deep pockets.
Yes, because it's a state-organised situation, right?
Yeah.
And this is the reason why, apparently, the British government says, we can't prescribe them as a terrorist organisation because it's just state-sponsored. Well, that's ridiculous.
That's got nothing to do with it.
That's bonkers, isn't it?
You look at China. Because
you might as well have said Al-Qaeda was state-sponsored because it was from certain states like Afghanistan.
There is money trails, Mike, to Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hezbollah in Iraq, who are the ones that have been attached actually as the sponsors and the motivators behind Haiti, who've been carrying out some 20-odd attacks since March this year, and they were a fabricated cutout group created specifically for that. They've even traced it, then they've confirmed it by arresting one of the commanders for Hezbollah Iraq and actually interrogating him and finding out that, yes, they are behind it, as they were in Syria when they did something similar. So, Iran is the biggest state sponsor. China, again, they don't sponsor terrorism, but they sponsor espionage.
Yes.
Russia does sponsor terrorism, but it also, that's probably why I'm on the list. They haven't invited me back there.
Are you on the banned Russian list?
Mate, I was on the 22 list, yes. I was number 16, very proud.
That is good, isn't it? That's not bad, is it?
Absolutely.
You can use that as a sort of recommendation for anybody who wants to hire you. You go, why should we hire you? Well, I've been banned by Russia. I'm number 16.
Well, so many colleagues of mine were very upset and said, you don't deserve it, Will. We deserve it. So there was a lot of jealousy on that.
You haven't been banned from China as well, have you?
It's probably only a matter of... Actually, they probably wouldn't tell you. They wait till you turn up and then you disappear.
No, but you know how they banned a bunch of MPs. Ian Duncan Smith was on the list, and he's always very vocal about the Chinese and how we have to be careful because, of course, what everybody's forgotten about in this morass of nonsense that we've been dealing with over the best part of the last several weeks is that we are imminently about to presumably start digging into the ground for the Chinese embassy in East London. Which is going to be somewhere between the City of London, Tower Bridge and Canary Wharf.
Yeah, the government the only thing that they have done that's been of any benefit is rerouted those data cables, which they were potentially going to be on the the merge of, that they could have potentially intercepted or tapped into. So that's one benefit, but there are some serious questions about it.
Even if they're going to maybe make it more difficult for them to tap into them, but they probably still can.
Oh, to be honest, the technology that's going to be in there, one of the biggest problems, and again, this is, we do this ourselves. We have our embassies in various parts of the world. There will be representatives of the intelligence community that will be there in some shape or form, and they will use that as a forming up position for any operations that they're running in that country that embassy is located. The same will apply to America, same will apply to China, same will apply to Russia. You know, everybody knows that goes on. But where China has a distinct advantage on this is that they have the technical know-how and capability to be able to do all sorts of things that don't necessarily need feet on the ground.
Yes. Because, you know, we are not living, as it were, in the sort of Ipcris file days, are they? Michael Caine.
No.
You know, and
there's still a little bit of that going on.
I'm sure there's a bit of that going on, but, you know, most of what espionage does happen now is done cybercrime wise, right?
Oh yeah.
So you don't need to physically be digging into a computer, you know, sort of hard drive to find out what's on it. You can just, you know, eavesdrop
remotely hack into it.
Remotely hack into it.
But Iran's doing that as well, Mike. I mean, there's very little mention in the MSM, and this is why shows like yours are so valuable, because it's getting it out to people that the threat on cybercrime is not just from China and from Russia, but it's from Iran right now as well. And Iran is trying its utmost to try and hack into our infrastructure, hack into business, all sorts of things. I mean, certainly we know that one of their targets are US companies. There was a list that was issued the other day that they said of company names that they wanted to target. They weren't successful, but that doesn't mean that they didn't try.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, before I go on to the vigilante situation in Crowborough, I want to show you this. This is from America, right? Congressman Burchett. I don't know who he is, but he's obviously a guy with some interest in what he calls the deep state and also the business of UFOs. Check this out.
Tell me all about the UFOs and the aliens.
Well, the problem we have right now is the deep state's fighting the president on release, and he kept his word, and I suspect some of our not so friendly comrades in some of our alphabet agencies are slow walking a lot of the information. It's about power, it's about control, and that's kind of what runs Washington.
All right, what do you think is in these files, and why do you think they're not trying to release any of them? Like they're partial release.
Part of it's going to be that they're going to have to admit that they've been lying to us all these years, and there could be some cover up of zero energy. There could be some other things. I don't think we're ever going to get everything they have. But that's kind of the nature of the game. But Trump's kept his word so far to me, so I know the personal word he had with me. So I'm proud of that.
He's worried about the deep state keeping secrets about the UFOs. It's a funny old story, though, in America, isn't it?
It is. I mean, and there's this drip feed of footage of UAPs, as they call them, which are out in coming out from NASA and various other agencies. I mean, come on, let's not be naive about it. And I don't think I need to be tinfoil hat. I mean, if we are to believe that we are the only intelligent beings in the universe,
problem, isn't it?
there certainly isn't in Westminster. That's for sure.
I mean, you know, the sort of common story is this, isn't it? That you basically go, no, there isn't any intelligent life on this planet. That's why they haven't bothered visiting us, because they've already checked it out and gone, actually, there's no point.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just let them stew in their
Turned
own
up
juice.
and went, there's absolutely no hope. You can't fix stupid.
No, exactly right. I mean, funnily enough...
but you can't fix what stupid does.
Well, you can fix what stupid does as long as you get it early enough.
Yeah.
Bit of breaking news from Jamie Jenkins. This is the figures that came out earlier on today on unemployment. 210,000 jobs gone in the last year, thanks to Rachel Reeves and Labour. The latest payroll data shows Britain has 210,000 fewer payroll employees than a year ago. That is not a recovery. That is jobs disappearing under Labour.
And you know what's happening? It's all going into the black economy.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you saw the story on the weekend, Mike. There was this one about basically small shops, these vape and mobile phone repair shops, which are actually funding and taking money on behalf of individuals who want to get people smuggled into the UK.
What you're saying is that when people like me said 2 years ago, all of these shops that they were opening up, they're money laundering operations, right? Whether they're Turkish barbers, whether they're vape shops, whether they're fast food,
American candy,
all of that stuff you see all over Britain. And everyone went, really? Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out to be true.
Oh, how shocking. You are prophetic, Mike.
I mean, I literally am like Nostradamus.
You are.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out
No,
that that's
absolutely.
a rocket.
And most of those transactions are all going to be in cash.
Yeah.
But
it didn't take the police to work this out. It took the BBC to do an actual investigation.
Yeah.
And so, it's unusual for us to praise the BBC.
I know.
You know what I think has happened at the BBC? Somebody's gone, the migrant story is quite big now, so we'll have to figure out how to cover it.
Yeah.
So instead of actually demonising the people coming here, because we can't do that, because we're the BBC, let's do the smugglers, and let's try and follow the money, and let's try and do it that way, because then it will look like we're not ignoring the story, but we're not going to do anything about the migrants, because they're really all vulnerable, nice people coming here for a better life.
Yeah. But also, the details were already out there, Mike. Trading Standards already released a report earlier this year which said that over 50% of those types of shops are actually deeply connected or managed by organised criminal groups. So, any of those shops will be working in a cash economy. Well done, Rachel Reeves. You've pushed most people into that sort of market, or there's going to be all those revenues generated in those markets, which ultimately the HMRC are never going to claim back and help our economy or house those lovely asylum seekers.
Or you could just walk past the shops and say, well, there's never anybody in them.
No.
Right? How are they making any money? Maybe check out what sort of taxes they're paying.
Yeah.
Check out what sort of business rates they're paying.
Yeah.
The number of Turkish barbers that has exploded into not just London and other cities, but every single town. I mean, even down
and there's nobody in them.
Down in Sussex, little towns down there have got 2 Turkish barber shops with no customers. And you go, that doesn't look right to me. What
how
are
are they paying the
doing?
salaries?
How are they paying?
How are they keeping the lights on? Yeah.
Exactly. Unbelievable. Finally, just on the story from Crowborough that we played the video earlier, Mr. Getty's looking very smart this morning, says Andrew.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of love from particularly the female quotient of the audience.
Well, I'm very grateful.
No, listen, we're all grateful at this point in our lives. Anyway, the point is, how is your eye, Will, says Sue.
They're getting better. They're getting better.
They look all right.
They're getting better.
Yeah, they get on the
Lots of
mend.
makeup.
Yeah, on the mend. So this outfit in Crowborough, who are, I think, 81 volunteers. They're not really vigilantes. They're just doing a private sort of security patrol. What's the legal situation with that? If they, because we saw a little bit of video there where they interfered with some migrants who were trying to manhandle some people who were filming them. So they sort of got in the middle of it and sort of doused it all down and managed to sort of stop any trouble from happening. What's the legality of all of that sort of thing?
The legality, if you follow the fundamental rule of the law, which is basically to control a person in a particular situation legally and with reasonable force and effect a citizen's arrest, then there's quite a lot you can do. And there are more and more of these private foot patrols that are going about. Some are great, some are bad. There's one person, give him a shout out, who's really done a great job on it, is my local Bobby, which is run by a chap called David, who's former police, who basically sets these little street patrols up. And you'll see them up in the West End, you'll see them up in Leicester Square. They wear sort of red vests. And are highly effective at dealing with basic street criminals. Now, I've been saying this for years, Mike. I mean,
but they're
decades.
Not police officers. They're
not police officers.
They're
private security.
Officers, private security.
Yeah, they're private security officers who will be licensed by the Security Industry Authority. The question is, as with all with security, and I would say this, but you get what you pay for. So there are a lot of people who can't afford necessarily to employ a local security team, and then it's a question of response. Can they be in the right place at the right time or react to a situation? Now, you could take it from one end where it's almost like shop security, which, to be honest, these guys are paid £12 to £14 an hour. They're not paid danger money. So for them to get involved, very brave. And I would definitely recommend that staff in shops. We've seen a couple of steaming gangs going in and picking up. There was a JD Sports one the other day. Staff just don't get involved. Because to be honest, you probably have a corporate policy that says you're trying to protect our assets, we'll sack you. Fantastic, that's helpful. So, I think private security we're going to see merging more and more with the police over the next year or so, because the police, as Russell was saying earlier, they're under-resourced, they're unsupported. The foot soldiers themselves are doing the best they possibly can, but it's the higher-ups who are politically leaning to either some DEI or to some woke agenda, which is hindering them in being able to do their job, or misdirecting or redirecting them to go and arrest someone for a hurty word post on Facebook. So the morale I know from police officers that I know, and also police officers who have just left, is really, at the very bottom level.
Right.
They're not happy. So private security, if it's managed appropriately, if the guidelines are set out appropriately, then they could be a massive help.
For example, if people say, for example,
otherwise you're going to get vigilantes.
No, sure, and you don't want to call them vigilantes really, because that then has a different connotation.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking, for example, if you are listening to this show, watching it right now, and you're sitting somewhere in a relatively nice, calm neighbourhood, but there's a new migrant camp has grown up or something like that, like Crowborough.
Yeah.
You go to the police and say this is what we want to do? Do you start it up in a different way? You go to the local council. How does that work?
What would happen is that community, and hopefully would be paid for by the council, depending on whether you've got a friendly council or not, or a efficient council members or not. Probably not. Would be to engage a company, a private security company that is credible and has good reputation, and ACS as we would call it. You would engage them. They would interact with the police on your behalf. They would provide those security patrols. They would obviously liaise with the police so that there's a response mechanism. It can be done, but it would require people within the community to contribute.
Yes.
A good example.
Well, like in Crowborough, they've got 81 volunteers, they say.
Oh, they could have volunteers. The only problem with that is if it's members of the general public, it does fringe onto a vigilante group.
That's what
so
I'm
you've got to do it professionally.
So it's got to be done. Somebody's got to be in charge of it.
Otherwise, you're just going to get individuals that are going to be getting into trouble, breaking the law, and sadly...
Because the other thing we've seen, and I mean, we've got to rush in a moment because Linda Dooble's here as well, is in some Muslim areas, people have seen sort of private Muslim security, shall we say, or Muslim police, almost Sharia police walking around, in some ways doing things which would ordinarily, you would think, be outside of the realms of British law.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, there are community security groups, regardless of whatever ethnicity they come from or religious background. As long as they're operating within the law and they're protecting their community, then they're entitled to do so, Mike. There's no problem with that. But if you've got individuals that are then mimicking what we would call sort of the Sharia police, that's a whole different question. That's a whole different matter, and that should be stamped on.
If, for example, they were going up to women saying you need to cover your face.
Cover your face. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That can't be legal.
No, of course, they can't do that. They're totally illegal. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, listen, great to see you.
Nice to see you, mate.
Ever. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to get you back in. We've got to get Will in for Plank of the Week again soon, haven't we? With his beautiful cats. Are you hanging around?
Am I hanging around?
I'm a top man.
You haven't got rid of me yet.
Oh, excellent. Well, it's always good. It's always good to have security at all times.
Always,
in
Mike.
this job. You never know who's going to come through that door. But hopefully it'll be friend, not foe. Coming up, Linda Dooble's here. We'll talk to her about a great many things, including the unemployment figures, including that incredible crash. I don't know if you saw it, the two jets, the military jets in America.
I missed that.
Well, you keep your eyes peeled because it's a big one. Before we do that, more news, shall we do, with Edward Hughes?
I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Surprise, surprise. Labour's in yet another leadership meltdown. Keith Starlin is clinging on to number 10 like a limpet after getting absolutely slammed in the local elections. He insists he's focused on the job. Translation, please don't make me set a resignation date. Ministers have already jumped ship or politely suggested he packs his bags. Meanwhile, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been cleared to run in the Makerfield by-election. He's promising to change Labour because, in his words, the current offer is not good enough. A revelation that's only slightly more obvious than rain being wet. In other news, fresh allegations that 2 women were raped by their on-screen husbands on Married at First Sight UK, with Channel 4 apparently knowing about 1 claim in advance. Shocking. Another perfectly normal Tuesday in Clown World. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you, Edward. Keep up the good work. Nice man. He seems to have settled down a bit now. Last week he was in a bit of trouble again. He seems to have kind of got his mojo back. This is coming on Substack, and I know many of you on Substack who watch the show want to interact on it. We're going to try and get some of your messages along to it. This is from Keith, who says, many congratulations on your phenomenal success. Along with Dan Wootton, you are blazing a trail which others will doubtless try to follow. One of your viewers asked me to ask you a question. Does anyone know what, if anything, has happened to Rachel Thieves' much trumpeted entertainment theme park, about which she was so gushing last year? Many thanks. Keep up the great work. Well, this is, of course, the place in Bedfordshire where you might remember Keir Starmer, in the midst of some other scandal, crisis, disappeared off up to somewhere near Luton to unveil his very, very happiest moment, where he said, one of the great things about being Prime Minister is I was able to tell my children we're opening a theme park. We actually had some great fun with it, Will. I don't know if you remember on the morning that we did it, because we said, why don't we have some... and in fact, there's an HS2 theme coming up, because you can imagine the Labour government's theme park. You could have like a dinghy ride where you get on one side of the lake,
this now,
right, and you sail across the lake, and on the other side you get given some pizza and a blanket and a free phone, and then you get to stay in the hotel for the rest of the week for nothing.
Yeah, but 1 out of 10 dinghy doesn't make it, so it's a lot free for the family.
Yeah, and then there's the HS2 train you get on. It doesn't go anywhere. You just literally sit on it and give all your money out.
Yeah, they just take your wallet.
Just take your wallet and your credit cards, empty it. Yeah,
I like
all
it.
of that sort of thing.
Excellent.
So there was a lot of that going on.
And then there's a pro-Palestine march.
Pro-Palestine march, absolutely.
Excellent.
And then there's a bit over there we can beat up some Jews.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
and some veterans.
Yeah, and
homeless
some
veterans.
Homeless
you can do
veterans
that.
palace over here.
Yeah.
See, that's what it works. But, I mean, I don't know when they're going to put the first spade in the ground, because I think the last time I checked, they hadn't actually managed to get all the land yet. So they were still having to compulsory
I believe
purchase.
they have, Mike. I believe they have.
So they might have got that. But, I mean, this government is a theme park all of its own, but there's nothing good. You know, there's a ghost train, the House of Horrors, the House of Mirrors. You know, they could have any number of horror stories.
Definitely House of Horrors.
The House of Horrors for sure. Yeah, Chamber of Horrors. Yeah, absolutely right. Let's talk to Linda Doobally, who's been waiting very patiently for us. Who is, of course, international star of TV, radio, newspapers, as we discovered when we had her in the last time. How are you, Linda?
Yeah, I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm very
great
well.
Guns, I gather.
Yeah, no, we're doing great. We just passed 21.5 million. A week ago, we were only on 19, so we're sort of jumping around about 1.5 million, 2 million a week, which is not bad on the old views front. So we're very happy about that. I know you've got lots of things you want to talk about. Let's kick off, though, first of all, with these jobs figures that have just come out. I don't know whether you've seen them. 210,000 fewer payroll employees working in Britain than a year ago. So Rachel Reeves has played an absolute blinder. She hasn't been seen much lately, but it's not good, is it?
It's absolutely shocking. And when you've got 3 children like I have of working age, you listen to them and you listen to their friends, and you really understand the importance of work.
Yeah.
You know, it is the foundation of everything. I can remember when I trained as a young journalist on the Western Mail in Cardiff. This is a very long time ago. And the whole of South Wales was really blighted by unemployment.
Yeah.
It destroys lives. You can't build anything. You can't get a home. You can't buy a home. You can't rent a home. You can't raise a family. There's no dignity. There's no self-esteem. When these figures are on a downward trajectory, which they are, there is such a massive problem for the whole country.
Exactly right. And I'm like you, I've got a couple of young sons, and, it's really tough for them because there's no immediate clue as to where you go to find anything, and there's no pathway like there used to be. And I know that it's easy for us to say, just get out there and find yourself a job, and then somehow it will all work out for you. Because it seemed when you and I were kind of that age, you didn't really worry about it. You just kind of went and got on with stuff, and suddenly something appeared, and then something else appeared. But I know that just one of my kids who's just finishing university now is already making less money than he was 2 years ago because of the national insurance increase. Because the place where he was getting shifts, they've reduced the number of hours, reduced the amount of money he makes. Businesses closing down. I mean, we saw. What was it? Spaghetti House is closing down as a chain. The Real Greek closing down as a chain. The Toby Carvery closing down. And the hospitality where loads and loads of kids would go and get their first job. There's just nothing there.
Yeah, and there's that whole framework that you and I would have had when we were young, where you would do a Saturday job. I did a Saturday job in a hairdresser's, Boots the chemist, different Saturday jobs that gave me experience. But I can remember, really fighting hard to get a job as a journalist. I wrote to 64 newspapers across the country. I remember that figure very clearly. And eventually I knew I'd strike pay dirt with one of them, which I did. And then there was a whole framework of how you went to Fleet Street and you did shifts, then summer relief contracts, then maybe you got a job. But it was always a framework. The problem now is we live in a different era, and these kids start applying for jobs online. I've got my middle child probably applied for 400 or 500 jobs before he got a toehold in anything. And then they have to go through a process where their esteem is knocked sideways by the fact that no one replies to their application at all. Never mind get any feedback, which is really important. And then there is no framework at all. And then when you do land something, it might be a 0 hours contract where you don't know where your next payday is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely true. And unfortunately, you know, going to university isn't the answer either, is it? Because people go to university, they end up getting a degree, they end up owing 50 or 60,000 quid, and then they come out and there's no job like there would have been no job 3 years ago.
I mean, tell me about it. You know, I've got 3 kids and the weight of student debt now is absolutely appalling. I spoke to a family member who is a mathematician, and he said, you know, this eventually, the student debt, won't just be a specific problem for students and their families. This is a huge debt growing exponentially, which will affect the whole country's economy. I mean, it is a disgrace. Tony Blair, you know, once said, you know, he wanted half the youngsters to go to university and put that sort of arbitrary figure on it. You can't put an arbitrary figure on that kind of thing. And university sort of became the norm, if you like. Now, I'm not saying that kids shouldn't go on and do something different, but I didn't go to university. I did indentures for 3 years on a local newspaper. Other people could do apprenticeships. There are lots and lots of things you could do apart from going to university that don't involve encumbering yourself with a huge debt. And I really urge youngsters today to think very carefully before they take on 50, 60,000 pounds of debt just to get into some kind of job.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got this from Susan. It says, can you get someone on to explain career pathways available now? My 23-year-old with carpentry and site management qualifications is struggling to find a proper way in. It's very confusing. And similarly, you saw that other message that just came up there a minute ago saying my 20-year-old can't find a job. It's soul destroying, because it really is.
Oh, it's terrible. When you're the parent and, you know, and you sit there willing them to try to get a lucky break. I mean, that lady whose son did carpentry made me think about the theatre, because you wouldn't normally think about that about carpentry, but my middle boy's become very, very good at it, and he is now the deputy technical manager of the Playhouse Theatre in Southwark. But believe me, he had to sweat blood to get there.
Yeah, right.
But there are lots of, you have to learn to be quite inventive and think about the unusual ways through that your skill can get you into a pathway, because they're not as clear as they were when we were young.
No, and I think for a lot of kids as well, they don't have that skill, you know, because it's not something that everybody has. You know, you and I were fortunate in that we were probably a bit chippy, a bit awkward, you know, wouldn't take no for an answer, quite like upsetting people, and here we are. You know, it's been not a bad little ride, but, you know, not everybody's like that. You know, a lot of people don't have the confidence, or they don't have the, you know, the self-belief. And it is, when people don't answer your application form and they don't answer your phone calls and they never ring you back, it's pretty soul-destroying.
Yeah, I think it's very, very harmful. I mean, I think that, and they also have AI to contend with, the surge of AI coming forward, which is bound to take many, many jobs. And whatever anyone says about, oh, yeah, but you lose jobs here, but you gain them there, I don't think that is going to happen. I think what we're seeing now with AI, which does have some really, really good points, but what we're seeing is something like akin to the Industrial Revolution of 200 years ago, where we suddenly got, you know, industrialized jobs in urban areas, and that was a massive help. Well, we're now in the middle of another digital stroke knowledge revolution where there may be vastly fewer jobs, but no one is paying any serious attention to this. We need something like, you know, proper apprenticeships which are properly supervised, and community schemes which are properly funded and properly supervised. But of course, we can't do that without the revenue. And at the moment, we're up creek without a paddle on that front.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Talking about job opportunity, Will, I mean, what's it like in security? Because, I mean, people are always going to want security people, aren't they?
There is, and I mean, I totally agree with what you guys have been saying about this, but also I'm going to sound like a horrible Gen Xer.
Right.
Now, we grew up, which we're all Gen Xers, we all grew up pre-internet, pre the ability to do research. We had to go and knock on people's doors, and we had to persevere, and we had to persist. And the one thing I would say is I get a lot of CVs every month from individuals who want to come and join my company. They get their security qualifications and they want to come and join. Now, one of the things that I see consistently not being done is spell check, for starters. Number two, AI, as much as everyone sees it as a potential evil, I think it's a real benefit. And we had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I would say to the kids out there, number one, no one owes you a living. We never had our livings owed to us. Get out there, be persistent, knock on those doors. If you are unable to try and find an easy access in, use AI to your benefit. Put the prompt in to say, look, I'm not finding a job. This is my skill set. Where should I look? What are the lateral solutions to me applying my skill set to other businesses? Use that to your advantage to get all those benefits, all the things that we didn't have the advantage of when we were that age and when we were young. So I would say, yes, it's a tough world. It will always be a tough world. And parents like yourself, fantastic, being supportive, a little more than my parents were. But I would say, get on AI, put the prompts in. I'm having a crap time. I've got my qualification in X, Y, or Z. I'm looking for a job. This is the area that I live in. Because the joy of AI is it will search everything, the internet, listings, even potential job applications. And I would put that in there, start using it, but be persistent. Well, I think, and I'm probably going to lose a few friends here, but I think some of these kids need a firm size 12 up the backside to say, get out there and grab it, because no one's going to give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think some truth to that, isn't there?
Yeah, can I just interject there to say that I completely agree with what you're saying. My ex-husband runs an AI company. He was the founder of Sky News, and so I think he's always ahead of the curve when it comes to news gathering and information. And I think that I sent a message to him last night because I'm going to have a chat with him this morning about this. But AI is incredibly useful. He sent me some guidance on a subject I wanted to cover, and it's incredibly useful. How do I do a half hour of broadcast news? And you will get all the information you need, which tells you what to do. The other point I want to address is you are quite right in saying that kids have lost confidence in face-to-face contact. The number of youngsters, I believe, that won't engage in a bit of chit-chat is absolutely astonishing. My kids don't do that. I can't shut them up. But they grew up in an environment where they were always talking, always debating. They all did public speaking at school. They all do presentations now. I think the value of face-to-face contact, of knitting in with people, is so incredibly important, because there are some things I won't give you. And sometimes it's that little bit of an unusual situation that it won't have covered, that will come up just by chance, just by luck. You will firm up the right relationship, but you can't sit around and expect that to happen, because if you don't do anything, you won't get anything.
Totally agree. And the one thing I would say with AI, just very quickly,
go on.
I mean, because I left with my 4 O levels, and that was about it. And one of them was religious studies, which obviously proven to be very helpful.
I'm sure. God bless you, my son.
Was to basically, at the beginning on Claude or ChatGPT, and I prefer Claude myself, it's a bit more human, is to put the email that I want to send, the application I might send, or the proposal I might send, and prior to that put improve and then semicolon, and then copy and paste it in there, and it will come back and say, no, Will, that was very childish, or that was badly written, your grammar's rubbish, and it will correct all of that. And that, your first impression through the door is the most important. They will sum up from that email whether you have the capabilities or the attitude, for that matter, that they need and they want.
Well, I can tell you there's one job going, and it's working for Darren Jones, you know, the world's worst assistant, who's already screwed up the Treasury for Rachel Reeves, is now screwing up the Prime Minister's job. But he's looking for a digital content and communications officer.
I bet he is.
Working for both Darren Jones MP and Claire Hazelgrove MP. Greater Bristol is the location, 26,000 to 30,000, depending on experience. This is an exciting opportunity to join 2 dedicated teams serving local people in Greater Bristol. So there's one job you could try to go for if you've got any kind of wits about you, if you know anything about high engagement video content. This is now, maybe we could do a slot every week. Offer some people some opportunities. But
job of the week.
Get in there and then start leaking stories to newspapers, and you could have a future in journalism. There's always that.
I could train them up for that, Mike.
You could.
That's good.
Speaking of journalists, right? I want you to look at this, Linda, because you've worked in a lot of different situations, a lot of different environments. Tom Baldwin, you may be familiar with, who is the sort of biographer of Keir Starmer. He's an ex-journalist, but he's now more of an author, and he's very biased about Starmer. He wrote a book basically painting him as this incredible guy. But he gave an interview the other day about the failure of journalism in this day and age. Have a look at this.
But we're in an era where everybody appears to be criticised, and I don't think anyone is above criticism, whether that's prime ministers or journalists, and I do think journalists need to take some responsibility and have a good look at themselves about where they've behaved in the last few weeks. Whenever there's a change of prime minister, government grinds to a halt. We saw it 3 times under the Tories in the last parliament. We're now talking about having our 5th prime minister in 5 years, and we're beginning to look like a very unserious country. We're beginning to look like Italy in the 1980s, and this sort of habit, this addiction that people have in politics and indeed the media to the idea that every couple of years, if Prime Minister gets a bit unpopular, we can boot them out again. That's not how our system's meant to work. And it means that you can't take long-term decisions, as this government is actually trying to do, and it will get little credit for it. You can't take these long-term decisions because everything's just thrown into turmoil again. And so I think there's deep frustration, not just on Keir Starmer's behalf, but actually anyone who cares about stable long-term government for this country.
I mean, ironically, in order to be more stable...
if you want stable government, then don't keep screwing everything up. Don't keep inviting people into the country who shouldn't be here and costing the country more and more money that we don't have. I mean, it seems to me that they've now started... I do blame some of the journalists for a different reason, because they haven't really been putting enough scrutiny on Keir Starmer. And before he got in, nobody was asking the question. He kept his head down. He got elected because he wasn't a Tory. But nobody really asked him what was going to really happen when he became the Prime Minister. He just kept saying, we're ready for government, and we're going to hit the ground running, and we've got a plan. And they didn't have a plan at all, as it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I don't think Keir Starmer needs Tom Baldwin to big himself up, because Keir Starmer does that all on his own. The fact of the matter is he shows very strong narcissistic tendencies and symptoms, one of which is to constantly grandstand and paint himself as the hero of the piece.
Yeah.
Tom Baldwin does have a point about the polarisation of society in general. I think it's true that we've become very black and white, and we're not used to debating the real nuances of what makes situations very complicated. But the fact of the matter is there's no point in politicians complaining about the media. The media become everyone's Aunt Sally when they get themselves into a tight corner.
Yeah.
The fact is politicians, have become unserious. And one of the reasons is they are constantly attached to their X accounts, quoting, not even quoting, but making remarks, cut and paste phrases, word salad, you name it, they do it. They're moving at a fast and furious pace. I was listening to one Labour cabinet minister last week who said he was going to strain at the leash to sort problems out. What does that mean, strain at the leash? I mean, he's not a dog trainer.
Well, you don't want to talk to Peter Mandelson about leashes and things like that, because you might find the answer you get is not quite what you had in mind. Dog collars all round.
Oh, no. Now I can't get that.
What I was going to say, what a visual picture that's given us, Mike.
But the point is that we have now got this political class, this political management class, I call it. And I know that people will say, oh, it's you old people, you're just always going on about how it was better in the old days. But we did have characters, we did have more, different types of people, whereas everybody now comes with this same kind of vanilla box, and they all say the same thing and use the same words.
You look back to Margaret Thatcher, and whatever you thought of her, she said what she meant, and she meant what she said.
Yeah.
She was a character. She had a little bit of actual voice training, I think, to get her into a lower register. But she never had the kind of media training which leads, as you describe it, to these vanilla responses.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that politicians have become this homogenized mass because and I put this out the door originally of 24-hour rolling news where they all got the opportunity to be on air. So they all got media training, was all painting by numbers, to use my own phrase, and they all ended up with with horrible little sketches when they should have been attempting to paint a Picasso, as I said last week on air. You know, they should be trying to be inventive and imaginative, but they're all trying to work along the lines of focus groups and market research to make sure they don't upset the apple cart. Well, I'm afraid to use one more analogy. You can't make an omelette without cracking eggs. And the problem is they're too scared to do that. Therefore, we don't get any real solutions. It will be very, very interesting to watch what goes on in the Makerfield by-election now, because that will be one of the most consequential by-elections in my lifetime.
Yes.
And let's see how the candidates play out. Let's see who Nigel Farage picks as his man or his woman.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There was a suggestion that it was going to be a local guy who I think is now currently a councillor, because I think they've learned the lesson of the Matt Goodwin exercise in Gorton and Denton. And I'd said this to Richard Tice, you know, it's probably best if you use somebody local in a place like that, and somebody that kind of knows the area rather than somebody who might be considered to be a carpetbagger, because then you can accuse Andy Burnham of being that guy.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think everyone should have paid much more attention to Gorton and Denton's demographic makeup.
Yeah.
It was clear to several people the Greens were likely to win that battle because of the high number of younger people who were fed up with the unemployment situation and immigrants who wanted to back Green because they were no longer going to back Labour. So it was quite clear what was likely to happen in that constituency. I think I said last week that what I think of the two ways to go in Makerfield are either a local, hyper-local guy or woman like you've just mentioned, Mike, or you could find some kind of high-profile celebrity, not even a celebrity, but a campaigner who'd fought for an issue that mattered to local people. That might work as well. But whatever Reform do, I think that they are in a very good position to win that seat. I'm not particularly an advocate of Reform, but I can see how they can win in that seat, because I think the last time round, Josh Simons got only like 18,000, well, only, but 18,300 seats. And Reform, just above 12,500, weren't that far behind them. If the Tories stood aside, which I know they're not going to, because Kemi Badenoch's been quite clear about that, but if somehow Reform could scoop up the 4,500 votes that went to the Conservatives last time round, they'd be in with a shout.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Before we let you go, I want to show you this piece of footage from an air show in Idaho this week, which I know an awful lot of people were staggered by, right? Will, I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I haven't seen this.
This is two Growler jets, believe it or not, with a tip to Angela Rayner, of course.
Another Growler, Mike.
Yeah, exactly right. And
They're the planes in Top Gun.
Are they? Oh, right. Okay. So you know a bit about this, right?
I know a bit
Excellent.
about the background here.
All right. Excellent. Right. We'll have a look at this because it's quite dramatic footage. I mean, that's going to be an expensive collision, isn't it?
That was a very multi-million-pound collision. That was at an air show in Idaho. You don't really get that kind of footage unless it's at an air show, because of course planes eject like that in war zones where obviously no one's got a camera running. I understand that Martin Baker Associates, one of our leading British family-run engineering companies, where my own brother started as a 16-year-old apprentice, so apprenticeships are very valuable. Martin Baker develop and fit those seats for air forces all around the world. In fact, 90% of the air forces have Martin Baker seats, I understand. But they supply the seats for the US Navy Growlers, which is what those planes were. Now, the interesting thing about that is it's a mid-air collision, but the two planes interlocked as they came down.
Yes.
Now, that is a tremendously difficult thing to do, because in order for the pilots to eject, the canopies have to be blown off, literally blown off with high explosives. And they had to blow one off, then the other one off, which was right on top of it. And then all four pilots ejected off a timer.
That's incredible, isn't it, to see?
Amazing.
And so, I mean, when you say they interlock, that was an accidental interlocking, presumably. And then
but very fortunate.
Yeah.
Very fortunate to get that clearance, as you were saying. To get the clearance to eject,
I just want to say that Martin Baker, you know, they've started by a guy called Sir James Martin and Valentine Baker, who actually died in an air accident. And the company's very near me, and they put a monument up in the forecourt of their building, and they record each life saved. So at the moment, it's standing at over 7,500 aircrew have been saved by these seats. And they update it. You can see it's a ticker. It's updated all the time. And when anyone is saved anywhere in the world in those seats, which are highly complicated pieces of kit, it's all recorded.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Linda, great to talk to you. Lovely to see you. And we must get you back in the studio one of these days soon. Thank you very much indeed. Linda Doobly there with some fascinating facts about the military hardware there that we just saw. But incredibly, I mean, knowing what you know about the military, I mean, it must have been quite a difficult thing to do just to collide. I mean, presumably there
are so many things that could have gone
wrong. I suppose
wrong.
they could be doing some kind of manoeuvre where they're flying quite close to each other.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm terrible at, Mike, is skydiving. I managed to break my back doing it. But one of the things I would say is that the four of them all ejecting, so from each jet, and Linda would probably know this better than I would, they eject at angles. So what you don't get is an entanglement of the canopies between the two, you know, the navigator and the pilot. But if you've got four people ejecting at the same time, they were very fortunate that the jets were actually connected like that, so they could deploy in different directions. So ultimately, each pair would not obviously entangle, but they didn't entangle with each other, the other pair, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, I remember watching the Red Arrows once and thinking, crikey, you know, I mean, it looks like they're missing each other by a hair's breadth, you know. It's quite incredible. Yeah, quite incredible.
They are.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Linda, thank you very much indeed. We're going to come back to you very shortly to speak to Christian Drogan from Watchmen. He's got some film for us, some projects he's been working on. Nigel Pawley's going to be here as well to talk about the BBC. They got a new boss this week. I don't know whether anything's going to change. AY Audit's in later on as well, of course, to talk to us about some of the work that he does around the migrant hotels. And we've got AD Schwartz talking to us as well about what's going on in the Middle East and all sorts of other bits and pieces going on that front as well. Keep your messages coming in as well. Lots of you are getting into the conversation about trying to find work for your teenage boys and your kids. Some super chats as well. The show keeps getting better. Thanks, Mike, Pooch, Charlotte, and your great guest from Sunshine. Thank you very much indeed. It does keep getting better. With your royalty, Americans see a very stable government in the UK. Says BGT. Well, if only that were true. We haven't really had a stable government for a while. This one from Anglo-Saxon. It's disgusting the IRGC haven't been prescribed, Mike. It is, absolutely. And ridiculous, in a way, the idea that this government can't bring itself to do it. Steve says this, in support of our veterans, isn't it time Paddy Mayne was awarded the VC? There's already a petition, I believe. Love the show. Not sure I know about Paddy Mayne.
Oh, Paddy Mayne, there's a story. Yeah. One of the founding forces of Stirling of the SAS and an absolute beast of a man. He's worth a read up. They did a TV show on the BBC about it. I watched a bit of it. But
okay. Well,
it's okay. But Paddy Mayne, he's quite a character.
Yeah, I will check that out. Let's get some news right now. What are we doing? Oh, we've got another one, sorry. Will should be the new James Bond. He is my crush, says Laura Jane. Well, listen.
I think I'm a bit old for that now, but
possible.
Thank you.
You could be in James Bond if you didn't even want to be
Look
James
at what,
Bond.
as a barman or something.
You could
bin
be,
man.
Yeah, I think
be the bin man.
It's time you had some kind of cameo
Mr.
role.
Bond, I need to empty your rubbish.
Yeah, or you know, the shaken not stirred mixer, mixologist, or I don't know. Could be anything. Simon, thank you very much indeed for that. So coming up, I've got something else to tell you about, but I'm going to hold on to that thought because right now it's time for the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Surprise, surprise. Labour's in yet another leadership meltdown. Keith Starlin is clinging on to number 10 like a limpet after getting absolutely slammed in the local elections. He insists he's focused on the job. Translation, please don't make me set a resignation date. Ministers have already jumped ship or politely suggested he packs his bags. Meanwhile, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been cleared to run in the Makerfield by-election. He's promising to change Labour because, in his words, the current offer is not good enough. A revelation that's only slightly more obvious than rain being wet. In other news, fresh allegations that 2 women were raped by their on-screen husbands on Married at First Sight UK, with Channel 4 apparently knowing about one claim in advance. Shocking. Another perfectly normal Tuesday in Clown World. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed, Edward Hughes there with the news. Lots of you got things to say about AI as well, which I'm sure we'll be getting stuck into. We were supposed to have an AI expert on, I think last week, but unfortunately it was one of those UK live scenarios where we couldn't get the show switched over. Since you're here, Will, let's talk about the front page of The Sun, which has got a very different story on it. Katie Price's new husband, Lee Andrews, who apparently was reported missing yesterday in Dubai.
This was great.
Katie Price apparently says, I haven't seen him for 5 days. What's he doing? Well, according to The Sun, apparently Sun journalist Clemmy Moody, who I know very well, offered him £1,000 for an apparent investment, and he disappeared with the money. So
apparently he's done that with allegedly a number of other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. Has he been kidnapped?
No, this was the funny thing. I think Clemmy's been doing some great reporting. I've been following it on Instagram and on her socials. So she's absolutely destroying this man. She's had loads of women who've come forward that allegedly he has conned out of money. He keeps telling Katie Price, his new bride, that they got married within 3 months or something this year. That he's on his way home but couldn't make it. She went on GMB the other day and apparently he was supposed to be with her but he couldn't make it. Something had happened, which basically I would say, from my experience, comes down to that he's on a no-fly list, which means that he probably owes money in the UAE.
That's
to
dangerous
various people.
Business, isn't it?
It's a really dangerous
because they
business.
can lock you up.
Oh
for
yeah,
that,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And unless he pays those debts, he won't be able to leave the country.
Right.
But the best development recently was the video that apparently he sent to Katie of him saying, "I've been kidnapped." And he had zip ties on, he had a hood, he was in the back of a van, yet he managed to use his video on his phone to be able to record. I've never had a kidnapped victim who's done that.
Inside The Sun it says, I agreed to hand over £1,000 to be invested by him. He promised that I'd get £2,900 back. Nothing has been paid to me, however, and then later I was blocked. And I was then blocked by Katie Price as well.
Oh,
so,
no.
I think I'd pay money to be blocked by Katie Price, to be honest. Never darken my door again. Will, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, sir.
Great to see you, man. And we will see you again soon, I'm sure, for Plank of the Week or something similar. Let's talk to Christian Drogan, though, now, because he's with us from Watchmen. Let's find out what he's been up to. Christian, very good morning to you, sir.
How are you doing, Mike?
Yeah, not bad at all, not bad at all. I think we've got some video from you. So should we have a look at it first? You want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a clip of a girl. So I went up to Makerfield on Saturday, I think it was now, Sunday. And I went up there on the weekend anyway. And I thought I'd just go and speak to the people and sort of, I know the area fairly well anyway. So I sort of hit the main street in Makerfield, and obviously it was just full of journalists, all kinds of news channels and photographers were there. So I thought what I'll do is Watchmen style. I'll go a little bit deeper. I'll head right into some of the other areas, and I know some of the sort of let's just say less well-to-do areas around there.
Yes.
And I came across this young, sweet, polite girl. Now, I just need to tell you about this girl. She was very forthcoming toward, she wanted to come and speak to me. She knew I was recording, and I blurred her face out just because I felt like it was the right thing to do. Now, she was a very sweet girl and very polite and very open to speaking to me. But I just think it's really important to show this clip to the nation because. Well, I'll tell you what, if we play the clip, we'll discuss it after.
Yeah, let's do it.
Recording now. Just wondering if you're voting in a by-election.
Oh, no.
Why not?
I'm not running this.
Do you not think the country needs people to get up and start having a say?
Yeah.
Yeah? So are you going to vote or not?
I didn't do that.
Well, you've got to register on the electoral roll first. And then obviously you register to vote. And you put your vote in. Obviously, you have to choose which party you want to vote for.
I wouldn't have a clue what to vote for.
No?
No, I wouldn't.
No? Well, I mean, I can tell you who I'd vote for, but...
Who would you vote for?
Reform.
For?
Yeah. Yeah. Your future and your kids' future counts on it.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'll have a look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I imagine that's quite indicative of a lot of people, actually.
Well, you know what you couldn't see on that photo. You couldn't see that this girl had a black eye.
Yeah.
You know, she was obviously from a part of sort of Makerfield, which you know was a little bit rough in some parts, and you know she's obviously been hit in the face, which is never nice to see. So my sort of it was quite sad. It was quite a sad feeling when I sort of spoke to this girl as well, because it just made me realise, you know, there are, and I know this already, but there are so many pockets of Great Britain that are forgotten. Now you've got to think about this girl's education and stuff. You know, she's been failed by the education system, and effectively she's there living in a world where, you know, it's probably very hard for her to see outside of that world. So yeah, it was quite a sad moment. But that leads me on to the next sort of big thing. Is Andy Burnham King of the North? Well, I'm here to tell you that he definitely is not.
And you can honestly qualify that by being of the North, as it were. Because I mean, I said this last week, that the only people who think that Andy Burnham's King of the North are the people in Westminster who've never been to the North. You know, they've never been north of North London, and they think, he's from Manchester. It's like these idiots who in the Labour Party who said, here's a good idea. If he gets the job in Makerfield, guess who we should put in his place in Manchester as mayor? Gary bloody Neville, right? And we had some fun with that last week because the logic in London, right, is, well, one, he's a footballer, so the working class will love him. Two, he plays for Man United, and that's a very popular team, so everyone will love him because of that. And three, you know, he's a socialist. Well, wrong on all counts, right?
Absolutely. It's totally wrong. Now, let me tell you a couple of things. I actually lived in Manchester city centre for over a year. I know it very well. I used to live on the 28th floor. I'd look outside towards whatever part of Manchester it was. And, you know, some mornings I'd be rubbing my eyes looking out thinking, am I still dreaming? What's going on down there? You know, you'll have these people walking around like with dog masks on or furries. And you're just thinking, wow, what's going on in this place? But anyway, that happens all over the country, I suppose. The sort of the mentally ill far left, you know, rainbow flag people. But anyway, going back to some actual sort of stuff with Andy Burnham, we had the clean air zone up here, which is effectively like the North, the Manchester version of ULEZ. Now, it cost 100 million quid to put all the cameras up and all the signs up, and it's quite well-known information around up north. It cost 100 million quid of taxpayers' money, and that's for the cameras, the signs, the you know, everything else. Anyway, thankfully, the clean air zone was scrapped due to pressure from, I believe, Boris Johnson at the time, which is, you know, at least he did something right. So. That was scrapped. But then the next thing, it goes a step further. Now, I've not got the figures that I did have in hand, but my phone's locked there. But the figures for taking the signs down was at, I'm sure it was about, I don't want to guess at it, but anyway, you can look the figure up yourself. It was astronomical. And it gets even worse. There's no actual conviction or known wrongdoing. But it's believed that, and this is alleged, but it's believed that that his wife had, so Andy Burnham's wife had something to do with the company who's taken him down. Now, again, it's alleged, and there's some level of info circulating online on that. But there's a rat that's, you know, you can smell a rat with it all, and it's, you know, around Manchester we've got the bike lanes which are going in. So for example, from Rochdale to Manchester, there's now a continual bike lane going in. Nobody wanted this bike lane. Absolutely nobody wanted this bike lane.
And nobody uses bike lanes in Manchester, do they? And that's my understanding.
No. Well, it's never stops raining, so you don't really want to take your bike. You know what I mean? But I mean, to be honest, this bike lane, it's actually closed businesses down, you know, because this bike lane goes where cars could just pull up, nip into a shop, wherever it might be. Now you can't pull up on the side of the road. There's a bike lane that no one uses there. And this is Andy Burnham's Manchester. You can't forget on a Saturday night getting a taxi from the centre of Manchester. You can't move. It's gridlocked. You used to be able to drive down both. You could drive down Central Street of Manchester both ways. It was a lovely city, and now you cannot move in Manchester. It should have grown outwards, not upwards. And although some of the tall buildings I do like, but yeah, it's got a new nickname now called Manhattan because it's just
really?
grown up ridiculous. Yeah, it's a bit of a
My
local
son,
nickname.
one of my sons is at uni up there, right? And whenever I've been to see him, which hasn't been that often, and he lives in Salford, and you say take a cab into town to go to the centre of Manchester, down to Deansgate or wherever, and we'd always have to get out of it because we'd be sitting in I'd be going, we might get out and walk, you know, because it's literally gridlock on every single time I've been there.
Many people say he's ruined Manchester. We used to have a place called Piccadilly Gardens that is now nicknamed Crackadilly Gardens.
Oh yeah,
and you will have seen it on social media.
I've seen it. Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, it looks like the cross between sort of Philadelphia and hell, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's shocking. I mean, you have to be brave to walk through there. For some people, you know, it's like, you know, knife crime, rapes, and drugs. And it used to be a fairly all right place of Manchester, you know, food court and a load of shops. But now you know, on a night out, God help you if you walk through there. So yeah, that is Andy Burnham's Manchester from a lad from Manchester, and many people share my thoughts and feelings about it. And to be honest, going back to the by-election, a message to anybody who's up from sort of Makerfield area, you know, you really should listen to what I've said there, and I'm sure they already know as well, being from that area. I went up there and I spoke to loads of people, and actually their gripe really is, so it used to be quite a red wall sort of area. Their gripe is with what I found is massively with Keir Starmer. I don't think that many people are that political up there. But yeah, they've got a massive challenge. They've got a big hill to climb if they want to win up there. And obviously, I think if they don't win, it could be the end of the Labour Party in my eyes. It could be the end, a slow demise. And and that's what we want to happen, because they are trashing our country, aren't they?
Absolutely. But what do you make of these polls that are coming out in which they say that, you know, for example, Labour without Andy Burnham in Makerfield would lose to Reform by quite a big margin? But if Andy Burnham runs in Makerfield, he gets 45% to their 43%. So, I mean, obviously it's going to be close if he runs.
Yeah.
Do you think those polls are wrong?
I would think they would. I think it'd definitely be tighter with Andy Burnham, because, you know, he's a northern bloke himself, isn't he? To some extent. Actually, I've actually sort of bumped into him in town one time, and I asked him for a photo, and just had a bit of a laugh with him, sort of about politics. And he was fairly all right, to be fair, but you know, that doesn't mean he's good at politics, because he's a nice guy, and it doesn't mean that what he believes in is good for Makerfield. So yeah, the poll can do what it wants. He can be northern, but let's face it. The best person for the job would be someone local, I think. I mean, if you go to that sort of area, Wigan, you know, it's full of plumbers and roofers. You know, it's a big plumbing and roofing area,
right? And
that's the kind of person they need to get in. Someone who can relate to that kind of person, who actually wants to improve the area and look out for the area. And I think that's what will win the by-election.
Yeah. Have you seen the Restore candidate that was selected yesterday? They've selected some local businesswoman.
I've not. No. For me, I get the point of Restore to some level, but it does frustrate me. You know, people might jump down my neck at this. Certain people do. I'm not really bothered. It frustrates me to the point where I feel like, in my opinion, Reform is the people's last chance. So it's the good British people's last chance at taking their country back before the damage goes too far. And I feel like Restore is an attack on that last chance, and that's where I lose my patience with Restore. If it was done a bit more methodically, then I could definitely sort of see it being all right. But yeah, that's where I draw the line, really.
Yeah, no, sure.
Ashton and Makerfield.
Absolutely right. And one of the things that I was going to mention to you, because we talked about it a little bit earlier, I don't know if you've seen the footage from Crowborough this week, where it looks as though there's a couple of, I mean, I don't really want to use the phrase vigilante. It's more like a sort of private security group and 81 volunteers, people going out onto the street, because an awful lot of of places now where there are groups of migrants in camps where there's, you know, hundreds of them. It seems like there's a bit of tension growing. It seems like some of these migrants are starting to get a bit chippy about being filmed, starting to get a bit chippy about being spoken to and kind of demonstrated against. You know, there's almost like you can feel that the tension and the problems are going to get worse.
Yeah. What was your question on that? Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, I was just saying, do you think we're going to see more of these groups growing in different parts of the country where, because I was asking Will Geddes about the legality of it, where certain ordinary residents of places like Crowborough, which is a very nice sort of, you know, little quiet town in Sussex, is actually going to be patrolled now by people like the Guardian Angels did in New York, you know?
Yeah, well, we've had that going on for quite a while in Haywood, in the borough of Rochdale, and you know, the guys were holding protests locally, and next thing you know, they were being smeared as far right, you know, and all the rest of it. Now, I can't speak for the individuals myself, but I do know that from what I saw of it, the people had the best intentions, but the lefties were saying the kids were scared and all the rest of it. They were wearing high-vis jackets. You know, I don't know if they were sort of DBS checked, if that's the terminology, but yeah, I don't know if they were DBS checked or whatever. I don't know, but realistically, they were just parents, local parents from the area trying to protect the kids, because there are, I mean, let's face it, it used to be stop, look, listen. Now it's run, hide, tell. You know, that is ridiculous. You know, to saying that we used to stop, look, listen. Well, if you took that advice now, you'd probably end up dead anyway because someone would shoot you. You've got to run, hide, tell. You know, that's the craziness of how times have changed. That's the advice from specifically Cumbria Police, and I believe a lot of other police forces around the country. You know, run, hide, and tell. So
yeah. It's not great, is it? It's really sad. Anyway, good to see you. Thanks, Christian. Good to talk. Cheers. Once again. Watchman.com is where you find all the stuff that they get up to in terms of cataloguing what is going on as the political process unfolds in this country and as things go from bad to worse. This morning, once again, all the headlines are around the sort of psychodrama of Labour. Slippery Burnham's 2 U-turns in a day, the Daily Mail. Starmer sabotages Burnham on Brexit, the Telegraph. Burnham far ahead of Starmer in Labour vote, the Times. Starmer, I won't walk away, the Mirror. Labour must change to regain trust, says Andy Burnham on the Guardian. Burnham tries to ease the markets on the FT. You know, there's more and more and more of it. And I'm sure as you listen to that and watch the newspapers and watch the coverage that we're seeing, you know, again, the Westminster bubble obsessing about who gets to be in charge of the clattering train, who gets to drive the bus over the cliff. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one of them does it. We need a general election. It's as simple as that. This one from Maygree. Never been to Manchester. Can't be any worse than Glasgow now, which is a total cesspit. Traffic on motorways always at a crawl. Too many cars, too many people. Once a great city, now an overcrowded hole. I'm not going to say it just because I don't feel like swearing this morning. But yeah, you're right. The problem is this country is packed full of people. There's too many people living here. There's too many people coming here. There's too many people becoming British or being here from foreign countries. I mean, once again, I was out yesterday afternoon doing a bit of shopping and couldn't hear anybody speaking English. There was literally nobody in the shop speaking English. And you get on the tube, you get on a bus, you get on any form of public transport, and there's hardly anybody English on it. It's extraordinary. There was just a flash up there of the Mike Graham and friends. Are we saying anything about that, by the way? Do you know what the plan is? Oh no, okay, because we are shortly, I think I'm right in saying, going to release some footage from the live show that we did a week ago last Wednesday. Was it a week? It was a week ago last Wednesday, wasn't it? Isn't it? No, it was the 6th of May. So you know, it was less than 2 weeks away. Because it'll be the 20th. So it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. We're going to put the video out so you can have a look at it, and we'll let you know how you can do that. And obviously, if you are a subscriber on Substack and if you are a member of our YouTube channel, it will be easier for you to do. So if you want to join either of those august organisations, that's what you should do now. so that you can get access to see it, because it'll be a lot easier and cheaper if you do it that way. Also, if you are a YouTube watcher and you're watching us on YouTube right now, please do like the show and subscribe to the channel, because as much as we've got 21.5 million views now, and we've got 15,000, 16,000 people watching every single day, we could do with some more subscribers, because that's where it drives the algorithm. It makes it much more easy for us to reach more people. And so please go ahead and do that. We've got 162,000 now. We want to try and get it up to 200,000 by the summer. Also, the big meltdown for me today is going to be on HS2. I'm going to do it soon. But there's a poll as well. What should we do with HS2? On the news that later on today, it's going to be announced probably that it's costing something in excess of £100 billion, more expensive than the most recent Artemis moonshot actually cost NASA. So we're asking you what we should do about it. Should we scrap it altogether now before it costs us any more money? 28% of you agree with that. Turn it into a go-kart track. 6% of you want that. Sell it off to China. 4% of you want that. Make MPs pay for it. 62% of you want that. And I think MPs and civil servants who've been involved in it should all cough up, quite frankly, because otherwise I don't know what we're going to do about it. But we'll do a meltdown soon. Let's get some news first of all with Edward Hughes.
I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Surprise, surprise. Labour's in yet another leadership meltdown. Keith Starlin is clinging on to number 10 like a limpet after getting absolutely slammed in the local elections. He insists he's focused on the job. Translation, please don't make me set a resignation date. Ministers have already jumped ship or politely suggested he packs his bags. Meanwhile, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been cleared to run in the Makerfield by-election. He's promising to change Labour because, in his words, the current offer is not good enough. A revelation that's only slightly more obvious than rain being wet. In other news, fresh allegations that 2 women were raped by their on-screen husbands on Married at First Sight UK, with Channel 4 apparently knowing about one claim in advance. Shocking. Another perfectly normal Tuesday in Clown World. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show. I'm delighted to say Nigel Pawley joins us now, a star of stage and screen, a legendary television writer, amongst many other things. Lots to talk about today, Nigel. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Mike.
The BBC's got a new broom, but whether it's going to actually make any difference is difficult to tell. What's your feeling?
Well, it's out with the old boss, in with the new boss. The Who sang that, didn't they, in the 60s? Because he's very much of the establishment, public school, Cambridge Road. He went to the Olympics. He got a CBE. I'm not quite sure how he got a CBE. And he also worked for Google for 18 years. This should be a worry for anyone, the few remaining people who are actually watching the BBC linear television, because there's not really been a programme maker for some time. And it has been noticeable that perhaps the programme quality of the things the BBC are making has declined in recent years. The days of Michael Grade, Billy Cotton Jr., even David Attenborough, people who actually made shows and lived television, so they drove the BBC into making great series, have gone. And it's got to the stage now where he'll be heading the digital. There'll be this sort of digital first stuff. You remember them newspapers, Mike? Digital first. This means that you weren't there. You were making your way in television and radio then. Digital first was when they got rid of the print editions and gave it away for free, and that hasn't actually worked too well. The BBC is trying to compete with Netflix and streaming service, and it can't compete. How bad the BBC is now is the one show that is camp and glamorous, that you could probably have a camp and glamorous guy presenting it, is Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
They're apparently going to have Josh Widdicombe, who's like from the Wurzels, and Emma Willis, who's from Birmingham. Now, I don't watch Strictly Come Dancing anymore, but I'd have thought you'd have wanted probably someone who gets into the campery of it, someone who's going to sell it, a Rylan or a Graham Norton, someone, I don't know.
So this is the trouble. They seem to fight. They sort of pick on somebody like they did a bit with Claudia Winkleman, and then suddenly they give her everything, and then they go, "Oh, who should we get to do that? Oh, I know, Claudia Winkleman would be good at that." It's like Ant and Dec on ITV. Well, let's do a new show on ITV. Yeah, call it late night on ITV. Who should we get to do it? Oh, why don't you get Ant and Dec? And you kind of go, well, is that the best you can do? Can you not find some new people or do something which is actually, you know, worthwhile.
They're going to put the bins out at the BBC Executive House. They get Paddy McGuinness or Romesh Ranganathan to do it because they do everything else at the BBC. I mean, big breaks coming back. My old mate Jim Davison used to host that. We used to have fun with Jim. And Paddy McGuinness.
I know.
And the sad fact is we're paying nearly 200 quid a year, or a lot of people are not paying £200 a year or 180 odd pounds a year for the BBC. And losing sport, as we discussed last time I was on, not really have any programmes you want to tune into. You know, even Question Time, which, you know, going back to when my mum was alive years ago, she used to love a Thursday night. You'd see big politicians of the day on there, proper debate. Now it's comedians or, you know, people from telly, footballers. There's no gravitas. And the BBC, if it's anything, should be above trying to become, you know, Channel 4 or Big Brother. And it hasn't. And this guy's come in. Good luck with the job. But, you know, they've tried to clear away. And I know we were going to discuss Scott Mills. His sacking. Well, my view of that is that possibly Scott Mills is now allegedly suing for unfair dismissal. And I've got to say, I think he's got a fairly good case because he's, I mean, we don't know, allegedly he's got a good case, but he apparently declared everything that was the problem 20 odd years ago when he was given a job at Radio 1. So this sort of came in, and it struck to me as the BBC trying to clear the stables before the new boss came in so that he didn't have any problems to deal with. But I think they're throwing one of their biggest stars under a very big bus because this could have been dealt with a lot better and a lot easier than they did. And, you know, they've got a guy who's a broken guy. I don't know what he did all those years ago. He seems to have spoken about it. And it was all openly declared. And he's lost his job like that. And anyone who's been in that situation knows the trauma that can cause when you're hosting the biggest radio show, one of the biggest radio shows in the country, one of the highest rated, and you go away on Tuesday and you're fired on Wednesday, and that's it. I thought the BBC might have had a better process. It seemed to me they panicked. This new guy's come in. He hasn't inspired me that he's going to turn the BBC around, but hey, you know, he's turned Google around into an algorithm that you can never work out what's going on now. So who knows what might happen.
Yeah, and also the trouble is when you get people that come from places like Google, and he gets credited with all sorts of things that happened there, and it turns out actually it was nothing to do with him, and you wonder how he got selected, and you wonder what background checks they did into him, and whether they're so obsessed now with kind of making sure that nobody's done anything bad in the past, that they go, oh, well, he doesn't seem to have any black marks against him, let's give him a job. And the other thing about Scott Mills, it seems to me, and a couple of people have said to me that the I don't know whether this is inside information from the Beeb, but some of the things that he's alleged to have done or that they panicked about are quite bad. I wonder whether when you get threatened that somebody's going to sue you, it means they're actually not going to sue you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit like when we're on newspapers and strong editors stand up when people threaten you reliable, and if you've got a good story and they trust you, then you fight it and you take it on. But increasingly in this society we have, a litigious society, just the mere threat of legal action means that weak bosses cave.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to condone whatever was alleged that Scott Mills did all those years ago. What I'm saying is I think it was fairly well known within the BBC, and perhaps he shouldn't have got the job in the first place when that was already aware. To actually employ someone and then panic and sack him. And I say I think it was all to do of emptying the drawers or emptying the in tray before the new boss arrived. I bet the new boss wears like a black T-shirt as well to work with the suit, because that's what they do. I mean, if you're looking at the internet and stuff, you've got to look at Nick Clegg. He's now a multi-millionaire
Unbelievable.
working in the tech industry. So if you're looking at Nick Clegg was a deputy prime minister, wasn't he? Here for some, I don't quite know how that happened. I guess we didn't vote for the right way at the time, but or enough people didn't vote the right way at the time.
Right.
But if that's the quality of people who are running these tech industries, to suggest that someone who's been there for 18 years, that seems to me, so he's pretty well versed in what's going on with Google. Has he been watching much of EastEnders while he's been doing that? I don't think so. Has he been watching much of Question Time? I wouldn't have thought so. Is he up with why have they got rid of Football Focus? Or why can't you see the horse racing or the boat race or the cricket or the football or the motor racing or the golf on the BBC anymore?
Yeah.
You'd like to think, I mean, I'd imagine he'd be a little bit annoyed that the boat race has gone, as he rode for Cambridge 3 times. I actually went to Robinson College, Mike. I'm not going to be snooty about Cambridge because neither of us actually went there, but that's the modern college as you come out of the town on the left.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
It was formed in 1965 after a multimillionaire donor who built it in his honour.
Yeah. No, I've only been to Cambridge once. I went to a wedding there a few years ago, one of my daughter's friends, and it wasn't in the centre of town, and there just seemed to be too many bike lanes, and I didn't like it very much at all.
No, it's difficult to drive around. It's easy to bike around, not so easy to drive around these days.
Yeah, well, that's no use to me. But he's also said, this guy, Matt Britton, he'd be white trainers as well, wouldn't it? It'd be, black sort of, the sort of New Order black T-shirt look.
Like he's presenting football, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, white trainers and dark trousers.
What is that
Unbelievable.
white trainers thing? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Surely the whole idea of trainers is that you wear them. You don't just have them nice and clean. I don't know. I feel old, Mike. I don't understand.
Well, because we are old. That's the thing.
We
are.
The old thing used to be when you went to a wedding, one of your strange uncles or something would turn up, or one of the Irish uncles or whatever would turn up in a suit and trainers.
Yeah.
But it wasn't running Google for 18 years.
No. No,
he
exactly
used to go
right.
down to the pub. That used to be his best suit, and he put his trainers on. So I don't understand where it came trendily.
Yeah, or you wore trainers because you had bad feet or something. You had the excuse, because I've got corns or something like that. Anyway, 500 million.
Or into nightclubs wearing trainers now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the owner of it is wearing them. Life's gone mad. The world's
It
gone
has.
mad, Mike.
It really has. 500 million pounds of cuts, though, he says he's got to make. Significant financial pressures, he's saying. Very real challenges, all of that. So they're going to have to sack a load of people, aren't they?
They will do, and also they're going to meet his £565,000 a year salary. I bet that won't be cut.
No.
So you've got to look at where do they make cuts. Well, they won't make cuts on the digital area, because that's obviously the way that they see forward. Killing off local papers and local radio stations is basically what the BBC online has done. So you're looking at programme making. That probably would mean you wouldn't have a co-commentator. Well, and then again, you probably wouldn't have people going away to the World Cup. Rather, they always used to wonder why there was someone in America when they could easily be in London, because all we saw was a studio. So they will make cutbacks. They will make bleat on about. They'll probably say they're going to axe BBC 4 or BBC 6, Radio 6, or one of the Asian networks. There'll be something that they'll put out there that will get the Guardian and Observer readers going mad.
Yeah.
And then it'll all be rowed back, and they'll act sort of like Gardener's World or something.
Yeah, right.
Old people watch.
They'll kill off David Attenborough, literally.
Well,
sorry. I know.
He's over 100 now. He's fine.
I think it's time to put him in a retirement home for old TV presenters, honestly. I mean, it's ridiculous. Let me finish up with... Yeah, well, listen, Channel 4 are also now in the doo-doo because they've had to take down all of their Married at First Sight shows because apparently people were getting raped, according to, how about Raped at First Sight? I could rename it. Hey?
Taking reality television to a slight extreme.
A few migrants involved.
I used to...
There's a show idea.
Yes. Channel 4, you've had things like with the various other shows that they've had issues with. MasterChef was one of the BBC. And these are people who are totally out of touch with reality. And they think a reality show is having a few Muppets getting together with someone they never met, probably show off, and they think they're authentically working class, but they actually patronise the working class people. And they make a television programme, and then they wonder why it all goes wrong when they've got people who are show-offs and basically not very nice human beings getting together in front of a camera for 24 hours a day. Now, it's shocking if you've got a show called Married at First Sight. A, I think that was a crass idea anyway. But B, the fact that sort of, obviously the guy thought he had conjugal rights, even though it was a fake marriage.
Yeah.
So, that where do you go if you're going to start having programs where people get married? Then normally people would say that marriages are consummated, and that seems to be where the issue is on here.
Yeah.
But if people
right.
are going on television, if your daughter was going on television and getting raped by some numpty from Gateshead, I think rightly you'd be very, very annoyed about it. And I think Channel 4 have got a lot to answer on it. And in this instance, fair play to the BBC for actually investigating this
Yeah.
and doing a good job on it, because it obviously needs to be exposed. And I heard the Channel 4 chief executive on the news just before I came on here, and I've got to say, it was up there with the script. I don't know who the crisis managers are, but if you ever need any, I'm pretty good at crisis management, because what you don't say is lessons are learned. We're going to move forward. It was basically, we have faith in our processes. Well, the processes have failed miserably, haven't they?
Right.
If three people have been sexually assaulted on a program, I would say that the duty of care that they have for those people on there, young people on these shows, don't go on television and get raped.
Because this
That's
also,
not
does
the
this not
idea.
also, it gives the lie to this nonsense about Channel 4 being the TV channel for public service, that we do things that otherwise commercial channels wouldn't do. They're always doing shows about sex. They're always doing that awful Naked Attraction show, which was horrendous. They do these kind of shows where people end up shagging each other. Love Island, which is on ITV, I know, but it's all the same kind of, oh yeah, we're doing this because there's a demand for it. No, there isn't.
That one where they had, I don't know if you ever saw that, the dogging show where they had sort of fat brummies wearing animal masks going around. I don't know if you ever saw that. There was a
With
great
Stan Collymore in
great
it.
big lot.
Hey?
I couldn't possibly comment on that one. He did once chase me out from a football ground when I had to answer
did he?
the question. Yeah. So, I outrun him as well, which says a lot, doesn't it? So.
That does say a lot, yeah, absolutely right. I mean,
I was younger then.
But I mean, I remember looking at Channel 4's schedule once, and particularly when they were demanding that taxpayers should continue to fund what they do because it's also worthy, right? And almost all of their programming from about 10 o'clock at night on and all afternoon was all kind of rerun American comedy, like Friends and all that kind of stuff, right? And it was all rubbish. The idea that there's somehow, without Channel 4 the nation would be less well educated is absolute cobblers.
Well, if you remember, Channel 4 launched itself with Countdown and Brookside.
Yeah.
And Brookside was meant to be revolutionary because it was like a Liverpool housing estate, and they had sort of lesbians and things in it.
Right.
But nothing has actually ever moved forward from Channel 4. I don't really see the point of Channel 4 these days, actually.
I think they should just shut it down. We can't afford it. If we can't give the BBC any more money, we shouldn't give them any more either.
Well, this is very true. I know my old boss, Mr. Desmond, when I worked at the Express, he was trying to buy it and they wouldn't sell it to him. But I mean,
Right.
he turned Channel 5 around from, not doing much to, he made a lot of money out of it anyway. And Channel 5 has actually expanded and is doing quite well.
Well,
these
it's
days
sort of on the up, isn't it, Channel 5? Because they've
had some quite
accepted.
interesting programs on it.
Yeah, well, they've also accepted that there's no point in trying to pretend to be holier than thou. Just go for whatever you think people want to see, and that's what they do, and they do it quite well.
If you want to see the Commonwealth Games this year, you've got to watch Channel 5, haven't you? Because they've stolen that. So
Yeah, exactly right. Anyway, listen, great to see you, Nigel. Thank you very much indeed. A couple of people enjoying your Steve Marriott picture and complimenting you on it, so it's always
Can't
good.
beat the small faces.
One for the teenagers. I'll see you soon. Nigel Pawley there reporting in on the new BBC boss who's got to make 500 million quid's worth of savings while collecting £500,000 of a salary. Marvellous, isn't it? That's the way it all works. And now coming up, we're going to speak to Adi Schwartz, who's an Israeli journalist and an academic. Used to write for Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper, of course. We're going to find out from him what's going on in the middle of the Middle East, because, of course, the ceasefire may or may not be coming our way. I think, should we play that clip of Trump, Charlotte, before we talk to him? Because it turns out that Donald Trump's now saying he might never attack Iran again. Check this out.
No, can't find it.
Haven't got it?
No, it's not coming up.
Okay, it's not coming up. All right, fine. Adi Schwartz, let's say very good morning to him, author of The War of Return. Adi, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I don't know exactly where you are. I assume you might be in Israel, but do tell us what is going on at the moment. We've got Donald Trump sending a few mixed signals about the Iranian situation as per usual. What's happening where you are?
So, right, I'm of course in Israel. I'm about 10 or 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv, Kfar Saba. But well, I think as the entire world, we are quite confused. We hear one day that there are negotiations, and then Iran very much wants a deal, and then they don't want a deal. And then
Right.
yesterday, earlier, an Iranian news agency published the differences between the American position and the Iranian position, and it seems, you know, it's very hard to believe that they will be able to reach some kind of an agreement. On the other hand, it seems that Trump is very much reluctant to renew the attacks. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I must admit that on the one hand, there are pluses, there are advantages for this uncertainty because everybody is guessing. So will there be an attack? Will there not be an attack? And it makes things very difficult for the Iranian regime, I assume, to know what's going on. That's on the plus side. But on the negative side, I think that at a certain moment, the credibility of the United States and the American army seems to be in question. Because if you really intend to attack Iran, then why do you suspend it for so much? And why do you delay it so much? So I think there are pluses and there are also some disadvantages. I think generally speaking, from someone who lives here in the region, I think that we cannot end this crisis with Iran as it is. Remember that we know that Iran was severely damaged, and I think there should be no question about that. Their army, their navy, their air force, everything is true. I assume their ballistic missiles, their nuclear weapons or capabilities, some of their infrastructure, all of this has been very severely damaged. But still, we are witnessing a very aggressive, very belligerent regime who's willing to, you know, put every dollar and every pound they have into rebuilding their army. They don't really care about the well-being of their people. We have seen that they've slaughtered, I think, 40,000 people in 48 hours or, 72 hours. So that's not their priority. Their priority is to create havoc in this region. We have seen how they attacked their neighbors, their Arab neighbors who, you know, United States, Israel, okay, they, you know, we attack them. But what did they have against Qatar, Oman, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries which were very, very careful, extremely careful for so many years and decades? So I think it's not only a regional problem, it's a global problem. And of course, put above all this, what they're doing with the maritime routes, that the fact that they have closed or at least severely damaged the Hormuz Strait. And I don't think this is something which is acceptable. I think the international community should be very alarmed. Tomorrow morning it will be Morocco or Algeria closing the Gibraltar Strait, or the next day Indonesia or Malaysia will, you know, stop the commerce routes in Asia. Or the same thing for the Panama Canal. You can't let anyone close or put so you know, heavy damage on international maritime routes. So for all of these reasons, I think that we cannot finish. I mean, we cannot stop here. Either way, we must. I think the international community, of course, the United States heading that effort, must end this regime, or at least cause much more damage.
Yes. And I think we've got that clip of Donald Trump now, so let's have a look at that and see what he's actually saying.
Speak a little bit about your post on Truth Social on Iran, and what was the decision that why you didn't attack Iran?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that, where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, you know, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we had we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and didn't work out. But this is a little bit different. Now we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Yeah.
I mean, as you say, Eddie, I mean, it's a little bit of a confused picture because one of the things he's now saying is that the reason he's not going to attack is because the UAE are having conversations with Israel and maybe are about to make some kind of peace deal. But, you know, it was only the other day, wasn't it, the UAE nuclear plant got hit by Iran.
Exactly. I must admit, I'm not entirely convinced that the script or the scenario that Mr. Trump just described, I'm not sure that this is exactly what happened. I think, if anything, the UAE is perhaps the most aggressive or has the most aggressive stance towards Iran. We know that they were lobbying, we heard report that they were lobbying the United States not to let Iran off the hook. Again, as you just said, yesterday's attack, I think there were just reports a few days ago that both Emirati and Saudi Air Force attacked Iran in the first couple of days of this, in March, I think, in the beginning of March. So Qatar is a little bit different. Qatar, I could believe, Qatar wants to, play all the fields. They want to be good with Iran, good with Americans, good with everybody. Qatar is a very, very complicated story. But UAE and Saudi Arabia, I find it very hard to believe. I assume something is going on. I mean, they're all kind of exchanging messages. But regarding Trump, I think that the most important thing is not to judge his words, but to judge his actions.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, as someone who's here in Israel, and we are seeing American, very, very large, heavy aircrafts non-stop coming into the area. What are they carrying? They're not carrying, presents. They're carrying ammunition. They're coming here, and there's a massive buildup. So either you're just, I don't know, spending millions of dollars each day for all these, planes coming in and out, bringing something, perhaps bringing new interceptors for the UAE or Israel if you anticipate another round or another cycle. So I think actions are more important than words. Again, it is very, very hard to guess what Mr. Trump is about to do. But I think it's more likely that we will see another round of attack. The chances of either Iran capitulates or Trump capitulates, I think that in this moment in time, it is almost impossible for either of them to do that.
Right.
So I think, again, as hard as it is to speculate and to guess, I think we're closer to a new round of attack. I don't know if it will be that long. I mean, the last one was 40 days. I think everybody assumes that this will be shorter, but again, as you said, it's guessing Mr. Trump is a very difficult task.
It is. Well, listen, Eddie, good to talk to you. Wish you well and look after yourself. Thank you very much indeed. Eddie Schwartz, the author of War of Return, journalist out there in Israel. Thanks very much indeed. We'll keep our eyes on the skies. And I guess if you live in the UAE, that's very much what you'll be doing, just in case some stuff comes firing at you from Iran, which can't be pleasant. Coming up, we're going to speak to AY Audits, a.k.a. Anthony. I think I'm allowed to say his name. Anthony, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. We're going to get stuck into that in a minute. First of all, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Surprise, surprise. Labour's in yet another leadership meltdown. Keith Stalin is clinging on to number 10 like a limpet after getting absolutely slammed in the local elections. He insists he's focused on the job. Translation, please don't make me set a resignation date. Ministers have already jumped ship or politely suggested he packs his bags. Meanwhile, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been cleared to run in the Makerfield by-election. He's promising to change Labour because, in his words, the current offer is not good enough. A revelation that's only slightly more obvious than rain being wet. In other news, fresh allegations that 2 women were raped by their on-screen husbands on Married at First Sight UK, with Channel 4 apparently knowing about one claim in advance. Shocking. Another perfectly normal Tuesday in Clown World. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, tigers.
Now, we spent a lot of time this week talking about Keir Starmer, talking about Andy Burnham, talking about Wes Streeting. and the uselessness of this Labour government. But today, the meltdown isn't about them, not specifically. It's about HS2. High Speed 2 is what it stands for. This is a project that was started many, many years ago, decades ago, in fact, by the Tories, to get a high-speed train link that would link London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, and other points north, west, south, and east. It now turns out that not only is it only going to go to Birmingham and nowhere else, but it's not going to be high speed either, right? But it turns out today we're going to find out that the cost of this ridiculous white elephant project is going to cost £100 billion, and probably a little bit more than that. That's the cost to the UK taxpayer. That's you, me, and everybody else in this country, apart from the people who don't pay tax, obviously. The high-speed link is set to become the most expensive railway line in the world, right? Which is bad enough. But it's worse than that. It's actually going to cost more than it cost NASA to send the last moon mission up. So Artemis, the thing that went up just recently to the dark side of the moon, cost less money than HS2. And the difference, of course, between that and HS2 is that it actually did go. 79 billion quid was spent, but they did go round the back of the moon and came back down to Earth. These people haven't gone anywhere. They haven't actually built any track. They've stopped building it because of bats. They bought a load of houses that they now have to sell back to the people they bought the houses from because now they're not going to be using the track anywhere near them. They've spent an absolute fortune on consultants. People have told me that if you work for HS2 and you're a contractor, you can put any bill in that you like and they'll just pay it. It's completely and utterly ridiculous, right? It turns out that the Transport Secretary will announce cost-saving measures such as slower speeds, right? The completion date will be pushed back probably to 2035. I'm not even sure I'll still be alive at that point. And so what they'll do is they'll replace the current Birmingham train that goes to London in a reasonably quick time with another train which goes to London in about the same time for 100 billion quid. Is it any wonder that this country is in the deep doo-doo? Because we haven't got any money, because we keep wasting it on stuff like this. We did a poll today on what should happen to it. I thought people would want it to be completely and utterly destroyed right now. Let's not go any further with it. Let's not do any more with it. Let's not spend any more money on it. But actually, most of you agreed with me that we should make the MPs pay for it and the civil servants pay for it. There's thousands of them all signing off on their little idea of how they can modernise Britain. We don't need any more railway lines. We just need trains that run on time and trains that run quickly and don't get cancelled because they haven't got a driver, or don't get cancelled because somebody's on strike. That's what we need, okay? It's not difficult. HS2, a complete and utter load of crap. It pretty much sums up what's wrong with Britain. They spent 100 billion quid and they still don't have a train. And it's going to be 9 years before they have a train. And even then it probably won't work. And you probably get on the first train, the first journey on HS2, and it will stop. And you'll have to get a replacement bus, won't you? HS2 bus. It's got a nice ring, hasn't it? That's my meltdown. Now, I'm delighted to say, for the first time, we can invite lots of people into this show that perhaps I couldn't have got onto my show when I was at Talk. AY Aldis is here. Anthony, very good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Great to see you, man. Now, there'll be people that might not know who you are, but they'll recognise your voice, I think. From
most probably, yeah.
Many of the clips that many people have seen on social media. Should we play one of the clips? Yeah. Charlotte, let's have a look. This is what AY does.
He's over there, look. Yeah, the police is here. They come. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just imagine, guys, you're running for that boat on the beach. Welcome to the land of milk and honey. The famous doctors and engineers are coming, sir. If you want to get yourself a doctor's appointment tomorrow, you're fine. Just 1 second, please. I'll talk to you after, yeah? If you want to talk to me, that is. There we go, guys. Where's all the women and children, miss?
What's up?
No, I'm just making my documentary.
What are you documenting on?
Immigration.
What, are you filming it? Are you recording it? Are
Oh
you
no,
streaming it?
just got a phone in my hand and yeah.
Are you live streaming it?
There you go, guys. I just want to point you in the direction of this sign here, yeah? You see that? See what that sign says there?
Yeah.
Would you want to read it out to me?
No, I see it, I see it.
You see, want to read that?
No, I see it.
Can you read it?
Yes, I can.
What's it say? What's that say? What's that say?
Public, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, yeah.
Okay,
So what you should do is, buddy,
yeah.
talk with these ones, are wasting your time, yeah?
Yeah, I am, but I want
Yeah,
to
okay,
get your
for
point
you.
of view from it as well, yeah?
Well, you don't need my point of view.
I like you, right? Because you like me. I quite like annoying people, which is a good thing to do, by the way. That was, I believe, Luton. Was it the Luton Ibis?
Yeah, so that was a processing centre.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now,
When you say processing centre, you mean hotel?
yeah, so
This is where they bring them.
they bring them into like a place like Luton for
Yeah.
maybe 2, 3, 4 days.
Right.
Yeah. Now you've got another one in Canary Wharf, Britannia.
Yeah. And would they have come from somewhere like Manston?
So they come. I followed that coach from Manston.
Right.
So the day before, they come off of the board of taxi service.
Yeah.
And then they'll whisk through onto the coach into Manston, and then 16 hours later, 24 hours later, they start shipping them into these hotels that are processing centres.
Yeah.
And then from there, then they go to another hotel, which is their longer term hotel then.
Okay.
But then, like a lot of these, and I've spoken to a lot of them, a lot of these migrants over the last year, and they're told like there's like kick off, get in a little bit of trouble in this hotel, they'll move you to another one. It's all designed to get them certain ones into a certain location.
Right.
Then they can go and do their jobs, their cash in hand work on their bikes, car washes, and then start paying off their debts then, I suppose.
Yeah, right. The
You
whole
know?
black economy thing. Because I've always said, I'm sure that it's not true that these people, many of them, are paying money to come across the channel. What they're doing is they're being signed up by these sort of gangmasters to say, right, we'll get you into Britain, then you'll owe us $5,000 or whatever it is, and you'll work doing this, and then you'll pay us back.
Well, we all know, like with these Uber Eats accounts and things, that you can have, 5, 6, 7, different people that actually operate on that account.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got the account, you open it, fire it up, log into it. I then go and I'm the illegal immigrant, I then go and do the work.
Yeah.
And then the money just obviously gets filtered back to, it's kind of common sense really to think.
And it's obvious, a bit like, we discover this week, or the BBC discovers this week, that, all of these vape shops and barber shops and, dodgy kind of businesses that are in high streets all over the country. It turns out, they're bankrolling the illegal migrant business. Really? Well, we told you that 2 years ago, And the thing that I find interesting is whenever you turn up anywhere where you're filming, there's always some Jobsworth who comes up to you and goes, like that woman, what are you doing?
You're always going to get that. Yeah. Whichever way.
But it's like they don't want you to film it.
No, they don't want you to film this at all.
Right.
Like, even when I look at last year, the stuff that they've tried to do to me to get me to stop filming was unbelievable. And it was all just like, it was just for showing the truth.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the support of the people that actually follow me, etc., etc., then...
So what sorts of things were they trying to do to you then?
So they, first of all, they had some story on Channel 4, ITV and BBC. Then they demonetised me. Then I was arrested 5 times for crimes that since I've actually been exonerated from.
Right.
And, 2 I haven't. I've still got to face them. But I expect them to be...
But when they arrest you, what do they say they're arresting you for?
It's...
Trespass or something? Or not?
Well, no, I've never actually been arrested at a hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's only at protests.
Okay.
So I will argue, because I would like to film, I'd like to go to the left side, so to speak, and ask them questions, like just simple questions, really, and then you just end up getting like the police want to try and move you on, and then you end up arguing, saying, I'm just trying to do my job, like legally, just ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
And then they twist it and say like, oh, section 14, blah blah blah.
Right. Well, they've started this business, haven't they? They did it. We had Ryan Bridge on yesterday from he was arrested before he even got to the United Kingdom march. It turns out probably in error, but he was held for about 11 hours in a cell so that he couldn't go to the rally. And then he was left to go. He had to spend quite a lot of money getting home because it was the early hours of the morning. And it's almost like they're harassing you in a way which is, in my mind, actually illegal. Because if you're standing, as you are always, on a public space filming, there's nothing to say that you can't do that. There is no. But if the police suddenly go, oh, we're going to have a dispersal order brought in, I think those can all be challenged. I don't think they've got the right to do that.
And I will stand there and I will try to challenge this.
Yeah.
I recently went to court last week, actually, or a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. And when I actually got to court, and you're not going to believe this, but the police forgot to send the email to tell the court that I was in court.
Right.
So they gave me a bail form and said you need to attend court with very strict bail conditions. And you got to attend court on so-and-so date. So I went to court. My name wasn't on the list. So I spoke to the prosecutor and they said, look, the police have forgot to send us the file. Now it's up to you. You either just go and forget about it or you go to the police and remind them. And I was like, hold on a minute, like, what sort of not...
Right.
I kind of foresee it,
Right.
If I just forget about it one day...
Yeah.
And it's not going to help us. I went to the court, I went to the police station, explained to them what's happened.
Yeah.
Oh, we're really sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. We're going to send it now.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I've gone back to the court. The prosecutor just looked at the paperwork and she's turned around and she says, do you know what? She said, for the honesty and integrity that you're shown, I'm just going to throw it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely. But I mean, all of that will take your time, your money, and presumably it affects things like, I mean, if you're in court quite a lot or if you get charged with things, does it affect your credit rating? Does it affect your life in that sense?
To be honest with you, like I've only been to court twice, so far. But I raised the point where if they can like just forget to send bit of paperwork. How many other cases is there out there?
Oh, loads.
Yeah.
Well, I used to talk to a lot of lawyers, criminal lawyers, who would be either defensive lawyers or prosecution. And they say the number of cases that just get dropped because the police either forget to do something in terms of a document or they forget to send anybody to the case as a witness or the witness turns up and they haven't got any notes. You know, it's a complete
it's a shambles.
broken system, a complete shambles, and so there's a very good chance if you ever finally get charged with anything and you ever finally get to court that you'll get off with it if you're a criminal because the chances are the police will screw something up, right? But tell me about how you got into this in the first place, Anthony. When did you start doing it?
So roughly about 2 years ago, I was in the work van with one of the guys that work for me and he's watching TikTok. I never had social media, never had
And this is,
Twitter.
when you say the work van, what was the business?
Oh, so I've got my own business. Yeah, so I run my own business.
Okay.
It's all above board, etc., etc. So now I've just got two people that work for me now instead of one, and I just not concentrate on this, but I still obviously concentrate on that because that's
your bread and butter. Yeah.
Bread and butter. But anyway, TikTok, and I never had TikTok or anything, or I never used social media. And then one of my colleagues was watching videos, and he said, "Yeah, look at this." And I said, "No, it's rubbish. It's AI."
Right.
Yeah, and he says, "No." Yeah, I said, "Seriously?" Yeah, I said, "They wouldn't do this." And it was from a guy called Truth Hurts 101. And then, so I kind of got hooked, and I was looking, and I thought.
And what were you seeing? What was it?
He was going inside these hotels, and he was reporting on these hotels, and it was majority all men.
Yeah.
And then I found a couple of others, Yorkshire Rose, Active Patriot, etc. Then I started I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and find out for myself, and I'm actually going to go to these hotels, and I'm going to find out. Never had used a camera or anything, so I went around with a camera for a little bit just to. Get at ease with it, you know, and just to see what making a video was all about, etc.
Yeah.
And then I went to started going to the hotels, and I was just going inside, and I was looking around, and I was looking at all the notice boards and the food, and I was looking around, and I thought, bloody hell, it's true.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing because
Because the people organising it all spent a lot of time trying to keep it secret, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't want anybody to know.
No. And you look now, and more people are waking up to this situation.
Yeah.
And 2024, 2025, you could probably say that the country's very much aware of what is going on now.
Well, now what you've got is people like the Pink Ladies turning up outside the Bell Hotel in Epping, and same with Britannia in Canary Wharf, and in other parts of the country. I remember, I think there was one up in Manchester, Altrincham, where they took over a hotel there right next to a girls' school. And people are fed up with it. People have gone, we don't want this.
The Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, I actually started receiving, because I get a lot of messages, so I started receiving messages about that before it closed, like in the matter of days. So I actually went down there, and it was actually getting taken over. They was letting staff go, and I was speaking to members of staff, and they was like, this is like single mums that are trying their best, you know, and they've actually just lost their jobs. And they're coming out crying and saying like I've got children, like how do I pay my rent? You know, like things like this. And it actually chokes you a little bit. People was coming up to the hotel with bookings to stay there.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and you're like, and I'm standing there filming it, and I'm like what? Oh my God! You know, like where do these people actually go? You know, like these people have booked holidays, etc., come and see family, and they've just shut the hotel.
Well, there's so many people I've spoken to in the last 2 or 3 years who've had, hotels near them suddenly taken over, and they've had, wedding plans cancelled. They've had, retirement parties cancelled, birthday parties. They've just been told, sorry, we can't do it. And they get no compensation. They get no kind of, explanation, really. And many of these hotels are making an absolute fortune, aren't they? I mean, we've got the government now today and this week saying we've reduced the number of people in hotels because they're moving a lot of them now into HMOs and housing, which in many ways is worse in a way, because you don't know where they are, you don't know where you're going to be living next door to. But you've spoken to quite a lot of the migrants as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
And so where do a lot of them, do you find they're all coming from one place or a small number of places?
You see, predominantly, it's Afghanistan, Sudan, Eritrea.
Okay.
Predominantly, it's from them countries.
Okay.
And it's like, with these, like they've come straight off of a coach, come straight off of a boat onto a coach.
Yeah.
They're out walking around the streets. See, this Luton hotel, if you come out of it, if you look over one side, there's actually a Holiday Inn.
Right.
And there's some really nice ladies that work in there, and they actually let me film from there down onto that building. And they've told me stories, like they're coming out late at night, finishing their shift, and these migrants are sitting in the bush.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I went down there and actually had a look, and you can see like the beer cans and stuff, just standing up, sitting in the bush.
Yeah.
And I said to him, like, what on earth are you doing sitting in bushes? And then it, like, I don't know, people probably say I was going to sound a bit wrong for saying it, but they're used to staying in bushes.
Yeah.
Like this is what they do. They've lived in camps in Calais, etc. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know Christian Drogan, who does the stuff with
I've seen a bit of his stuff.
He went over and walked through one of the migrant camps in Dunkirk for us, and they were chucking stuff at him, and it was horrific. There was rubbish everywhere. I mean, the conditions that they've created in which they live, it's not the conditions they have to live in, it's the conditions they've made worse because of how they live.
Well, and they're going to bring that to here.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing this in some places in London and probably other major cities around the country, where these have taken up camp. And they are treating it, and it's only going to get bigger, it's only going to expand, and this is how these people want to live, and these people are coming from places where their culture's not suitable with our culture, and a lot of these people, they're not going to come here and settle,
Also, the majority of them are not going to work. The majority of them are going to end up on benefits, having a house paid for, getting their council tax paid for, and never actually doing any work. It's completely insane.
This is why,
I mean, I've been around the country probably I'm slightly older than you. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. Every now and again you sort of have to give yourself a crack across the face and go, is this really what Britain is now? It's literally a holding pen for people, for anyone who wants to come here from anywhere in the world. You know, I say this all the time, that, you know, you travel around London now, which is a minority, you know, white British city, and it's not about colour, it's about finding people that actually speak English. You know, I go to my local supermarket yesterday, I didn't hear anyone speaking English.
No.
You know?
See, it's never been about colour, yeah? And I'll go back to Epping. I was at Epping right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people at Epping. And they never cared about the hotel all the time. Well, like, there was always antisocial behaviour regarding it, do a little bit of shoplifting they used to from the Tesco up the road. Shops started having more security, etc. But then the only time they started protesting outside of the Bell was when a serious sexual assault happened. Yeah, they didn't do it before. Right. Yeah, and it's only ever, it was from then. Yeah. You know, because then this has happened in their community.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they knew the family directly. Yeah. You know, and because it is a small village. Sure. And this is why the anger and the tension was so much. But it was never about colour, it was never about race. No. You know?
It was about the fact that people have warned about things are about to happen, and then they happen.
Yeah.
And the guy was eventually arrested.
Yeah.
He was sent to prison.
Released.
He was released by mistake, right? He gets told how to get on a train to London. He ended up giving himself up, didn't he?
Well, I'm not too sure.
And then, yeah, he did.
Yeah, in Finsbury Park or something, wasn't it?
He ended up going up to some cops and said, look, I don't think I should be out.
Yeah.
And then they deported him, but they gave him $3,500 to go back to Eritrea. For all I know, he's back here.
And put him on Sky News.
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Like,
it's hard to believe that this is going on. So, I mean, do you feel as though you're creating a sort of an information point for people? Do you feel? I mean, presumably you get accused of being a racist or being accused of being, you know, stirring up hatred and all of that.
Yeah,
which is what they all say, just because you're asking questions about what they're doing.
Look, I've been labelled everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that bother you?
It used to at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Like, it used to. I used to sit there and think it used to really bother me, you know, like, you're getting called like nasty names, you know. And then...
Because I've seen videos where whoever it is that's at the hotel telling you to stop filming, and they go, why are you spreading hate?
Yeah,
and
that was at Dunchurch, I think.
Yeah,
this
well,
one,
you go, well, I'm not spreading hate, I'm just filming.
All I aim to do is just show the people, and it's clear, that there's a huge public interest in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's to show the people exactly what is going on from an unfiltered point.
Yeah.
And it was the same when I followed the coach from Britannia at Canary Wharf to the apartments in Chelmsford.
Right.
And then you look, they're 90, off the top of my head, 94 or 96 apartments. They give $300,000 for each one of them.
Yeah.
And they're going to people that have come into this country 24 hours previous.
Yeah.
And this can't be right.
No.
You know, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, and then just to be left in a city centre like Chelmsford, to be walking out and around.
Yeah.
Like we will see at Braintree on this Thursday, you will probably see hundreds of them just get dumped into one community, and just left to be roaming around.
Yeah. Well, we saw from this, we were showing this video from Crowborough today, where people are now saying we need to have a kind of, not vigilante unit, but, you know, we've got our own they've got their own security now walking around because the migrants in that camp there are actually getting quite emboldened. You know, they're coming out and they're telling people to stop filming them. You know, they're getting involved in scuffles.
Yeah.
They're starting to get sort of pissed off that people are wondering what they're doing there.
Right, they will do. When I've been at these hotels, I've had hot coffee thrown in my face.
Yeah.
I've had migrants threaten to do bad stuff to my mum, to my sister, etc. That you could only imagine, you know. Coffee chucked full in my face. I think the police actually come and attended. People actually, from my live stream, actually telephoned the police because they was worried because he started picking up rocks and stuff. But I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to, you know, I'd stand my ground and try and show exactly what it is. The police ended up coming. They didn't arrest him. They let him go back into his hotel. I actually fought for them to arrest him. And they wasn't going to arrest him. So I published it on social media. You can imagine. It went absolutely everywhere. The next day, the police are on me. Oh, do you reckon you can take this down? And then we're going to start prosecuting him, but we can't if it's up. I said, no.
Yeah.
Your only reason you're contacting me is because you've just done millions and millions of hits, and you don't want to be. You don't. Well, anyway, they did arrest him. Well, they didn't arrest him. They brought him in for a voluntary interview. They did charge him though, but he's gone on the run.
Yeah.
And he's disappeared.
Well, this is what happens. They disappear and you never see them again.
And this is the problem.
Yeah.
You're letting undocumented, unvetted men into our country, and these people can disappear. That's, it's ludicrous.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's totally shocking. So what's your plan? Are you going to continue just with your campaign?
Yes, it's not a campaign, I don't look at it like that. I will still keep going to these hotels. I've been to nearly every single hotel in the country. Is it worth going around them all again? You've shown them once, so you think is it, unless something comes up there or something in the, as a story or something, there may be, but document them coming off of these, into these processing centres and then trying to follow them from there to their next destination, because that's when you find them going into these big multi-HMOs where you've got 98 rooms in one office block, and that's when you can...
It might as well be a hotel, in other words. Except they're getting money, presumably, to eat, to buy food, to pay for their electricity and all of that.
Well, I think electricity and all that there was probably included, but food, etc., guaranteed. But even in the walls inside there, do you need a dentist appointment?
Right.
Scan this QR code. Do you need self-defence lessons because the far right are getting too much? So we'll take you kickboxing. And then you're looking and you're thinking, so they're training these people. They're already conditioning them to think that a white person, because we want to talk about immigration, that we're far right and racist. So now you're actually training them to fight. And you see it and you think,
bonkers, isn't it?
Mate, it's. And they're feeding these people up so well that you go to these hotels, and I think the one in Peterborough, the Verve, they was going to the thing and getting 2 plates because 1 plate wasn't big enough. So you had each migrant getting 2 plates of food, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, I'm looking on the wall and I'm like, so they actually get 4 meals a day. Breakfast, snack, lunch, dinner. And you're looking and you're thinking, there's people here that I'd love to get 4 meals a day. I probably look like I do get 4 meals a day. But seriously, you would love to be able. There's a lot of people that doesn't even get 1 meal a day.
No, because they can't afford it. It's shocking.
You're paying for these ones to have this, and it's just. It's just absolute. It's ludicrous. When you're thinking,
and it's not we can't afford it. It's not sustainable.
Well, listen. There's no way on earth, that we can keep having this influx of migrants, whether it's legal or whether it's illegal. They need to put a curb on this. Even these people coming in on these visas, they're playing the system.
Yeah, of course they are.
And you can't blame them.
No.
For playing the system.
No, but the system has to change.
The system has to change. It needs to be broken down. It needs to be rewritten. And whatever they need to do with it, and just and just say, look, we need to curb this. We look at, I think Dorset the other day, didn't they release some figures?
44% of the sex crime committed by Afghans, and
they make up 0.8% of the population. How can 0.8% of the population commit 44% of the sex? Well, we know how they do it.
Well, Well, Bournemouth is now a no-go zone for most women.
Well, there's one. There's a migrant on trial there for, I don't know if I can say the word on your YouTube channel, but very serious sexual offence on the beach. It turns out that this gentleman was actually refused asylum. He was appealing. And he was still you had him refused and you still allowed him to be walking around the streets. And I spoke to one of them outside Bournemouth. I don't know if it was him, a migrant outside the Roundhouse Hotel in Bournemouth. And he was waiting. So he had been refused and he was appealing. And I said, so what are you going to do? He said, I'll run off. Clear as day in front of the police. And I'm like, there you go, mate.
Well, there was a case the other day, the girl in Brighton who was knocked out cold outside a nightclub because she wouldn't go with this guy who was from, I think he was from Eritrea. They arrested him, charged him. he's had a court case, but he didn't turn up. He's on the run.
He's on the run.
And she's going, I don't know if he's going to come back and try and do me in. I don't know what.
There was another one at Brighton. I think they just released another one. A Syrian migrant has just been arrested for another serious sexual crime. And I just, like, you looked, I think only a couple of months ago, the government, they put a ban on student visas from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Eritrea, Sudan was on the list. There was other countries on the list as well. And I said to people, like, why do you honestly think that they're banning the youngsters from coming here? Because they've seen what these ones are doing. You know, like, they're trying to get ahead of it, but they're doing it slyly. You know, they're not telling us. Well, we know anyway. You know, like, people can turn. Like,
everybody knows.
Everybody knows now. You know, the cat's out the bag, and they've got a serious problem. You know.
It's the thought police.
That's the.
This happens every Tuesday, by the way. It's a fire alarm. It will go off in a minute.
The building's gone too hot.
Anyway, listen, Anthony. I hope it's all right if I call you Anthony.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
I mean, you obviously don't want everybody to know exactly who you are.
Mate, Channel 4 put me over on my full name. I've had police officers might come up to me and say, "Do you still live at so and so address?"
Oh yeah.
Like, live.
Yeah.
And I look at them and say, "Do you know what? How would you like it? Like, how would you actually like it if I took a police officer's details and I published them all over the internet? You know, like." Because I could do that if I wanted to, but I never would do that, by the way. You know, I'm not saying that anyone should do that, but how would you like it, you know? Like, don't do to others what you wouldn't like done to yourself, first and foremost. And but that's how the police are, isn't it?
And they need to stop painting people like yourself as the bad guy, you know, because we know who the bad guys are.
But I think they need to stop, everybody needs to stop painting everybody as these bad guys. You see people like Tommy Robinson, etc., you know, like they paint him as this big, bad monster, when in reality, look what he's doing, you know, like he's bringing everybody together, like in successive protests that I've been to, you know, like the amount of people that are at these demonstrations, you know, like they need
because people are fed up. They're sick to death of it, you know.
People have started to realise that these labels, and they started to realise that people like Tommy Robinson ain't racist. You know, like he's not a racist, and they've started to realise because they've seen what it can do to ordinary people. You know, like myself, etc. The lies and stuff that they told, and how they tried to put me in a picture, or with a police officer, and then have a little talk over of a conversation. Tried to make out that it was me and the police officer was having the conversation. Didn't exist. And I'm standing, and it's live streamed. And you look and you think, right, if they can just do this to an ordinary person, what are they going to do to somebody that actually like has a little bit of a bigger voice? Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And
no, I know. No, it's shocking, absolutely shocking. Listen, we've got to go because we're over time.
Yeah, no problem.
Listen, great to see you though.
Yeah, you too.
Really good. Keep up good work.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Do we need to do a pooch's pooch before we go?
Should we do a double one tomorrow?
Do a double one tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because we're running a bit late. That was AY Audits, ladies and gentlemen. Brilliant guy. Fantastic work that he does. Incredible that we now know what is going on thanks to people like him, and how widespread it all is. But that was the show for today. Thanks to all the great guests that we had, including Anthony there, Adi Schwartz, who was on, Nigel Pooley, Christian Drogan, Linda Duberly, Will Geddes, Russell Quirk. Thanks to Charlotte as well, of course, for a great show. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Don't miss it.